Chapter 1163. The little girl sat obediently in Baijuan's arms. She tilted her big head and wondered if she should use the dried fish to lure her cat back earlier. In the end, she thought about it again. Little White did not need her to worry. When she was young, she had seen Little White show its power. Once Little White showed its power, it would turn into a big tiger and was not afraid of those stray dogs at all. But where did Little White go? The little girl was still puzzled. At the filming site, a pure white cat was lying on the shoulder of a young man who was the center of attention. It purred a few times in a low voice. The young man was wearing a pure black leather jacket on his upper body. He had a head of pure silver hair and a handsome face like that of a vampire noble. It was as if he had been kissed by God. He was only a junior high school student, but he had the glory of a superstar. The light shone on his face, as if all of it was sucked in. His thin lips moved slightly. His teeth were very white, and when they were exposed, there was always a strong sense of evil. After the cat purred, it left his shoulder. Countless people were calling out to the camera, "Young master." The young man pushed open the car door with a bang and walked over just like that. He was clearly only 11 or 12 years old, but his aura was very strong. He really did not need makeup. His perfect facial features were almost too beautiful. Our last Prince Charming, Bailey Shangxia. Ruan Axayan took the lead to clap. Her eyes were looking at Bailey Shangxia. She could almost see the explosive performance of this episode. In the Bai family, little Aju, who was originally sitting obediently in Baijuan's arms, suddenly stood up straight. She wagged her cute tiger tail and ran to the front of the television. Then, she squatted there and looked eagerly at Bailey Shangxia, who appeared on the stage. Her focused look was even more serious than when she was eating. Li Hailu touched the bridge of his nose. He did not forget that a year ago, when he was shopping with little Aju, he casually said something bad about Bailey Shangxia, and she bore a grudge against him. It seems that Aju really likes this celebrity. Li Hailu sighed and turned to look at Baijuan and the others. Xiao Lin frowned. His identity isn't simple. I don't know how many times more influential the topic is than Ruan Axayan. If he participates in this show, it won't be very beneficial to what we're going to do later. However, Baijuan did not seem to care about this at all. His eyes were looking at the child squatting in front of the television. At this moment, Aju's eyes did not have the slightest hint of his existence. Baijuan did not know how to describe that feeling. However, in little Aju's eyes, other than Bailey Shangxia, he could not find anyone else. Baijuan's hand suddenly tightened. The cotton swab was broken in his hand just like that, and his palm was stained with the medicine. Little Aju did not notice. Her little claws were still clinging to the ground, and her big eyes were very bright. Bailey Shangxia came with anger, but as a demon, he had a special characteristic. The angrier he was, the better he looked when he smiled. Among the permanent guests, there was a male star with good acting skills. As a representative, he had acted with Bailey Shangxia before. Of course, he was the one who received Bailey Shangxia. Our young master is finally here. I'm really too excited. Although I'm not your fan, my daughter is very much your fan. Bailey Shangxia laughed and did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Ruan Axayan. The camera immediately followed his gaze. Ruan Axayan really felt that her luck was getting better and better. She deliberately revealed a tired smile. When I saw Shangxia, I thought of my daughter. They seem to be about the same age. If only my daughter had a brother like Shangxia. That way, someone would protect her. My daughter also wants to acknowledge him as her brother. The male star wanted to liven up the atmosphere, so he deliberately made an expression that looked like he wanted to cry but had no tears. Now, as long as Shangxia's image appears on TV, she will definitely coax me to the side. As expected, this is an era where looks matter. Alright, let's welcome the young Prince Charming, Bailey Shangxia once again. There was another round of applause. This time, there was no need to do post-production special effects. Ever since Bailey Shangxia appeared, the assistants had not stopped scrolling through Weibo. Ah! The mission is here. Let's see what we have to do this time. As the male star spoke, he took a card from the director and was about to speak. Bailey Shangxia's voice was heard. It was neither low nor high, and it even had the unique aura of a young man. I'm not here to do a mission this time. Ha! The male star was stunned. He was stunned by Bailey Shangxia's words. Not here to do a mission. But their show required them to do all kinds of missions. What was going on? Could it be that the little CEO was only here to show his face and test his skills? He did not think that he was that popular yet. This show should be a live broadcast, right? Bailey Shangxia curled his thin lips. Recently, everyone seems to be very concerned about something. The person involved in this matter is also here. Why are we still doing a show? Isn't it better to ask her a few questions? After hearing Bailey Shangxia's words, everyone knew who he was referring to. The director wanted to stop the show, but when he saw the soaring viewership ratings, he suddenly felt that it was not a big deal to change the script at the last minute. This was more exciting. Therefore, he directly gestured to Ruan Axayan to continue. At first, Ruan Axayan did not expect Bailey Shangxia to say that. When she realized that this show would become her exclusive interview, she could not help but feel happy. Although she did not show it on her face and still maintained the weakness of being suppressed by forces, her eyes could not hide it from others. A few of the resident hosts who were close to her saw her eyes light up. There's actually nothing much to say about me. Ruan Axayan's voice was very low, giving off a very gentle feeling. I've already said everything that needs to be said on Weibo. It's just that I'm very grateful to my fans. It was these people who expressed their support at the first moment. If it wasn't for them, I don't know what I would have faced. I don't know if this show will be broadcasted. I just want to say that there are always right and wrong in this world. No matter who it is, they can't bully the weak. With everyone here, I won't give in. When the fans at the recording venue heard Ruan Axayan's words, they wanted to cry again. Bailey Shangxia only laughed. From what Ms. Ruan said, the other party seems to have committed a very heinous crime. Yes. Ruan Axayan turned to look at the camera. One of my daughter's classmates was also at the scene at that time. Her arm was broken and she is now lying in the hospital. In fact, I can't imagine what kind of treatment my daughter would have suffered if I hadn't arrived in time. Bailey Shangxia's thin lips curled up. Ms. Ruan, what you've said is just repeating what you posted on Weibo. Why was your daughter beaten up? Why didn't you say a word? This is the cause, isn't it? Chapter 1164. Hearing this, Ruan Axayan froze. Of course, she couldn't tell everyone why her chin was beaten up. However, this was in front of the television, so she couldn't lie. Ruan Axayan was very smart. In order to avoid Bailey Shangxia from harming her, she lowered her voice. I think that no matter what the reason is, a girl shouldn't be crippled. Bailey Shangxia raised his eyebrows and said, Oh, there's a loophole in Ms. Ruan's words. Isn't your daughter not crippled yet? However, it's a pity that such a shameless person hasn't been crippled. Ruan Axayan suddenly looked up as if she couldn't believe what she had heard. You! Why would Bailey Shangxia say such a thing? Since Ms. Ruan doesn't want to say the reason, I'll tell everyone on her behalf. Bailey Shangxia turned to look at the top manager beside him. Ruan Xan was also looking at him. Not only was she looking at him, but she was also looking at the director. Bailey Shangxia's words made her feel extremely uneasy. She had a strong feeling that the following content couldn't be broadcasted. Once it was broadcasted, not only her, but even the Yen family would be finished. The male stars who were working on the show with her also realized that something was wrong. So the little CEO wasn't here to participate in the show at all, but to use the live broadcast to slap people in the face. But under normal circumstances, shouldn't that godly manager come out to stop it? Why didn't he stop the little CEO today? He even stood aside and acquiesced to the little CEO's actions, as if he was pressuring someone. There was only one person who could make the top manager do such a thing, and that was CEO Zhu. Even if this wasn't ordered by CEO Zhu, at the very least, it was allowed by CEO Zhu. What exactly did Ruan Xan do that even their CEO wanted to teach her a lesson? The male stars didn't dare to continue thinking. The station head saw through Ruan Xan's intentions. After all, she was a female star on his show. No matter what, he wanted to protect her, so he glanced in the direction of the top manager. Who would have thought that the cameras had just shifted a little? Bailey Shangxia immediately said, "If you don't broadcast this video live, station manager Li, you don't need to be the station manager anymore." Director Li had never been threatened like this before, but the person who threatened him had the ability to make him disappear. Bailey Shangxia's every move was recorded in front of the TV, but he didn't seem to care. He was still so handsome that people who saw him would stop breathing. Director Li did not dare to make any more gestures. Coupled with the soaring viewership ratings, he decisively turned his face to the side. Ruan Xan didn't even have time to react. Bailey Shangxia spoke again. At this moment, he looked like a real vampire aristocrat. Even his beautiful eyes were emitting a bloodthirsty light. "Madam Ruan, no matter how young your daughter is, she's at least 11.5 years old, right? I have a video recording of your daughter bullying her classmates in school. After this segment is broadcasted live, I'll get someone to release it to all the major media outlets on time. I'll let everyone see how the Yen family's daughter ostracized and schemed against this, and that just because she has an official father and a celebrity mother. Then, let's talk about the reason for this incident. Your daughter fell in love with a male classmate, and that male classmate hated your daughter for pestering him. In the end, your daughter blamed it on a little girl, who is the person you said had committed the heinous crime. A 6-year-old girl didn't break your daughter's hand. Even if she crippled your daughter, it would still be justifiable self-defense. Your daughter is almost 12 years old. How could she have the nerve to bring 2 sports students to find trouble with a 6-year-old child? Ruan Xan, didn't you hint on Weibo that the little girl who hit someone this time has a background? Now I'll tell you, I can also become her background. You want to incite public opinion, right? Then let's compete. Let's see if I can incite public opinion better, or if you can." All the cameras recorded it. After Ruan Xan heard this, her face turned extremely pale. She pushed away the person beside her in a panic and shouted, "This is framing me." However, she could not hide her escape. The program was paused. Bailey Shangxia kept his word and directly left the video resources to Li Tai. All the netizens were rendered speechless by such a turn of events. The video clearly recorded what kind of behavior Ruan Xan's daughter usually had. In an instant, the netizens were filled with anger. Bai Zhuan looked at the television screen and made a decisive decision. "Shaolin, get ready. We'll start the live broadcast now." Less than 5 minutes after Bailey Shangxia spoke, the game live stream god appeared. Many people looked at their computers in a daze. The game people did not expect that one day, they would see the god reveal his true appearance. It was a youth who was so handsome that he could almost be a celebrity. He wore the simplest school uniform, but he gave people an innate sense of nobility. His voice was very clear, so clean that it made people involuntarily want to listen to him. Today, I'm not going to live stream the siege. Instead, I want to tell everyone that I'm the person with a red background that Wan Xan mentioned. As soon as Bai Juan opened his mouth, the number of people in the virtual room instantly doubled. He raised his eyes and looked straight into the camera, as if he wanted to imprint this gaze into everyone's hearts. The one who hit them was my little sister. I don't want to say that she's young, but I just want to ask all of you. If you had a little sister who was usually obedient and cute, but she was still sitting in the classroom, and someone came to provoke her and even wanted to hit her, would you stand up for her at the first moment? I would. Even if I have a red background, I'm just an ordinary person. My grandfather taught me since I was young that as a hot-blooded Chinese, I had to protect my family first before I could protect my country. However, I didn't expect that the identity that I should be proud of would become a bargaining chip for the other party to attack me. But even so, I still have to say that no matter what my family is like, I won't lose my bottom line. Today, I'm standing here just to seek justice for my sister. Wan Xian's Weibo post targeted my sister. Many netizens threatened to hunt her down, as if they believed that we were the ones in the wrong. In fact, Wan Xian had never told everyone the real truth. Now, I have the truth in my hands. You can listen to the voice in this recording and see what your goddess said. Chapter 1165. That recording was very clear. Even through the screen, those who heard it could feel the ugly expression on Wan Xian's face as she used her power to oppress others. A live broadcast that lasted less than 10 minutes spread all over the internet at lightning speed. The big names on Weibo reposted it one after another. Wan Xian's fans were still arguing below. This must be deliberately released to defame our goddess. Our goddess is always polite to people on the show. How could she speak in such a tone? Was this recording edited by someone? Bailey Shangxia saw those brainless comments and posted on Weibo without hesitation. A face-slapping expert's recording appraisal. Wan Xian's fans calmed down. Other than that appraisal, there was another thing that they could not compare to those young masters fans at all. Shangxia's fans all had one characteristic, and that was rationality. When things came, they would not attack people everywhere like other fans, saying that this was not good or that was not good. Instead, they would go straight to the point. In the future, I must keep my son away from the person who has a crush on him. What if she threatens her family so easily? Does the translation of this recording mean that if you agree to date my daughter won't find trouble with your sister anymore? Fuck, I wonder if my Prince Charming will kick me away if I use this to threaten him. Upstairs, your Prince Charming will only beat you up until you can't take care of yourself. Kicking you away won't vent his anger at all, okay? No wonder young master is angry this time. No matter who knows the inside story, they won't be able to tolerate this. Indeed, they could not tolerate it. The things that Wan Xian had done had already exceeded people's understanding of the bottom line. When people saw the video, the young man said calmly, "Even if I have a red background, I'm just an ordinary person. My grandfather taught me since I was young that as a hot-blooded Chinese, I had to protect my family first before I could protect my country. However, I didn't expect that the identity that I should be proud of would become a bargaining chip for the other party to attack me." Many people were moved when they heard that. Perhaps in their impression, people with special backgrounds would always bully others. However, when this young man said that he wanted to protect his country, his eyes were so pure. He was right. That identity that should have made him proud should not have become a bargaining chip for Wan Xian to attack him. Among the young master's fans, there were not many high-ranking people in society. Compared to ordinary groupies, they had their own set of analysis. First, they commented on the live stream. There was no lack of professional legal personnel among them. Let's not talk about the background and look at it as a normal incident. Madame Ruan used her identity to create public opinion and severely damaged a little girl's reputation. When the netizens wanted to conduct a human search on this little girl, if it wasn't for her family background, her health would have become a hidden danger. Madame Ruan has to bear legal responsibility for this entire incident. Let's talk about the background. After watching the live broadcast, my heart was in turmoil. I believe that the internet guru has already learned about the information of the young man in the live broadcast. If he really wanted to use his background to suppress her, I'm afraid that Ms. Ruan wouldn't even have the chance to post on Weibo. She would be directly taken to jail. Perhaps everyone still doesn't understand the bottom line of his words after watching the live broadcast. When you truly understand his background, you'll understand what he's saying. Even if his identity allows him to exercise a lot of privileges, he still won't do it. The young man's surname is Bai, and he's the only grandson of the military chief. He shouldn't have shown his face at this time, but he used the most sincere method to tell everyone that all he wanted to do was seek justice for his sister. This time, I won't talk about the law. I'll talk about favors. I also have a sister. Whoever dares to bully my sister like this, see if I'll beat them up. This person's last sentence said what everyone was thinking. Ruan Axayan was still in a panic, trying to find her close friends to think of a way to help her. However, what were those people afraid of? They immediately hung up after answering her call. At first, Ruan Axayan thought that the other party was afraid of the Bai family's strength, but after thinking about it carefully, it was just like what was said on Weibo. The Bai family would not pressure the media and would only directly attack the Yen family. Some of them still answered her call and revealed some news to her. Ruan Axayan, don't call anymore. Things have already come to this. Of all the people you could have provoked, why did you have to provoke Bailey Shangxie? It's not that we don't want to help you, but you've gone too far this time. There's really no way to turn things around. Ruan Axayan clenched her fists when she heard the other party's words. I've never provoked Bailey Shangxie. Then why did he stand up for you? That person sighed. And CEO Ju allowed him to do whatever he wanted. Do you know what this means? This means that CEO Ju wants you to completely disappear from the entertainment industry. Ruan Axayan's fingers paused. She felt as if she had lost her soul and all the strength in her body had been sucked away. She no longer had any hope of making the call. She turned around and said to the two assistants, think of a way to find a photo of that little girl in school and expose her. This was the best way to turn public opinion away. However, the two assistants slapped their work passes. If you want to go, go by yourself. We still have a conscience. We won't do this job anymore. After the two assistants finished speaking, they were about to leave. Unexpectedly, the moment they turned around, they saw Bailey Shangxie, who was known by the media as the blood-sucking youth. He glanced at them and said to the manager next to him, find new jobs for these two people and post a copy of the recording online. Bai's method is still acceptable. Hearing this, Ruan Axayan's face turned pale. Her hands trembled as she said, young Master Shangxie, do you have some misunderstanding about me? Did I do something to make you unhappy in the past? I can change. Or are you doing this to me because the Bai family asked you to come? Whatever they gave you, the Yen family can give you too. In order to prove her sincerity, Ruan Axayan even took out her phone as if she wanted to call someone. Bailey Shangxie smiled. The Bai family. My appearance has nothing to do with the Bai family. Then why did you? Ruan Axayan couldn't figure out what the problem was. Bailey Shangxie walked up to her. Miss Ruan, you should know that the child your daughter is looking for trouble with is not the biological child of the Bai family, right? Ruan Axian nodded in confusion. Was this very important? Bailey Shangxia lowered his voice into her ear and said, "You asked me why I'm targeting you. The reason is very simple. It's because I'm a Ju's biological brother." Chapter 1166. Ruan Axian was shocked, and her fingers trembled uncontrollably. Biological brother. In other words, that child was the little princess of Ju Wei group who had never shown her face. Ruan Axian's eyes widened. How could this be? It shouldn't have turned out like this. Ruan Axian suddenly remembered what her friend had reminded her on the phone just now. The other parties said that this time, it was that man who wanted her to disappear from the entertainment industry. Ruan Axian shivered and then fell heavily to the ground. It was over. This time, she was really finished. A recording was enough for people to see Ruan Axian's face clearly. Many advertising companies withdrew their cooperation with her. Even the reality show that she had participated in had called her and told her not to go anymore. Ruan Axian knew that once her exposure was stopped, she would be considered useless. There's also the Yen family. The Yen family will definitely think of a way for me. Ruan Axian seemed to have lost her mind. She was determined to find her way back. The news of Yen Jinghua being interrogated was exposed at this time. Once Ruan Axian's recording was released, there would definitely be people involved in the investigation. If Ruan Axian knew how to restrain herself a little, Yen Jinghua might have only been brought over for questioning. Ruan Axian made a fuss and used her identity to incite public opinion, which caused the Yen family to completely lose. The Yen family fell. Ruan Axian was also excluded from the entertainment industry. There was nothing more torturous for Ruan Axian than this. Yen Qin did not dare to go out because many people were scolding her on the internet. They scolded her just like how they scolded a Jew back then. At that time, she even looked at Weibo and laughed for a long time. She wished that those people would expose a Jew so that she would not be such a hindrance and always stick to Baizhuan's side. Now, she was afraid of such a backlash. When Ruan Axian went to knock on the door, Yen Qin started to shout and even shouted impulsively, "Aren't you very capable in the entertainment industry? Then tell them to shut up." In the end, it was useless and even implicated my father. If he goes to prison, who will take care of me? Those people on the internet said that you only got where you are today by selling yourself. Why is a person like you my mother? Ruan Axian felt her head buzzing. She had done so many things, other than for herself, it was for her daughter. She originally thought that no matter what she lost, her daughter would always be by her side. But he didn't expect that Yen Qin actually cared about who could bring her a better life. At that moment, Ruan Axian seemed to have seen herself, another version of herself who had yet to grow up. But it was this kind of her that made Ruan Axian's eyes completely lose their light. She was kicked out of the family by her own daughter because her daughter was worried that she would split the Yen family's assets. This reason might sound ridiculous in front of others. But all of this really happened. It started to rain outside at night. In just one day, Ruan Axian had a taste of what it meant to be better off dead. In the heavy rain, she awkwardly carried her suitcase like a stray dog. She didn't dare to speak because once she did, it would quickly attract the attention of the media. She understood their line of work very well. Once a person was unlucky, those interviews would come flooding in. However, these things weren't what made Ruan Axian's heart the most disappointed. It was her daughter. Why is this happening? Ruan Axian clenched her fists tightly. When she was about to walk forward, a slender figure appeared in front of her. The man had an extremely handsome face. Many media outlets, whether domestic or foreign, wanted to get a frontal photo of him, but every time, those reporters would fail. He stood in front of her. He was wearing a straight black suit, but his hair was silver gray, like mercury under the moonlight. Every detail was filled with the unique elegance of a man. The rain didn't seem to be able to touch him at all. He just looked at her with an indifferent gaze. Ju, CEO Ju. Ruan Axayan took a step back, her eyes wavering. You're asking why? It's very simple. Demons are originally nourished from the hearts of people. Don't you often do this kind of thing? You use Weibo to incite public opinion and awaken the darkness in some people's hearts. The man smiled a little, as if he was playful. You humans have a saying that is very right. The kind of person you are, you will look at others from that perspective. In other words, if your nature is bad, you will also understand a good thing from a bad perspective and then curse in anger. That's why it's not strange that your daughter has become like this. What did you do to Xiao Qin? Ruan Xian's entire face flushed red as she roared at the top of her lungs. This question made Beligaju tilt his head. His tone was very indifferent. She's your daughter. What do you need me to do? You've taught her well enough. Enjoy the consequences of your own actions now. Ruan Xian stood up and wanted to grab the man's sleeve, but she realized that all she could grab was black feathers that fell one after another. Bailey Jiaju walked into the carriage with his long legs slightly crossed. He glanced at Bailey Shangxia beside him and said, "Don't tell your mother about this." "I know." Bailey Shang laughed evilly. His demon-like little face was poisonous and full of mockery. Humans were really too easy to incite. That was why he didn't like to post on Weibo. Because some humans really couldn't even compare to demons. At the very least, demons were more consistent on the surface. It was said that crimes in the heart were the most terrifying. In this world, there were countless dark thoughts that could only be vented on the internet. Bailey Shangxia was very worried that his sister would be in a bad mood when she saw those comments. After all, anyone who was scolded by a bunch of inexplicable people would feel wronged. Moreover, she didn't know those people. Reality proved that Bailey Shangxia, who had a sister complex, was thinking too much. Because ever since little Aju watched TV and found out about Weibo, her attention was completely not on those people who had scolded her before. Instead, she held her little face and wagged the little tail on her pajamas. She eagerly clung to the computer and looked at Bailey Shangxia's Weibo. Then, her little claws hit the keyboard. She wanted to comment, but she found that she still had to register an account. She didn't have a QQ email, nor a phone number. She could only hold her laptop and run to Baijuan. "Little brother, help me register." Baijuan's left hand that was holding the book slowly clenched. His voice was a little cold. "Aju, you've been looking at Weibo for 3 hours. You can't look at it anymore. It's not good for your eyes." "I'm not looking. I'm commenting." The little girl sat in Baijuan's arms and said very seriously, "It says that you can comment." Chapter 1167. Baijuan's fingers that were holding the notebook paused. "Comment? What do you want to comment on? I'll write it for you." I saw a lot of fans leaving comments below saying that they like it very much. Little Aju tilted her big head and leaned against Baijuan. Her big round eyes were very bright as she stared at the screen and said, "Little brother, just write that I will always like and support you. Always like." When Baijuan heard these 4 words, the strength of his typing became stronger, and the sound of his typing became louder. Here, write that Aju left it." The little girl's lotus-like little arm poked at the end of the Weibo post. She looked very cute. However, Baijuan's eyes were only filled with the words "always like." After he typed the comment, he did not send it. Instead, he glanced sideways at the little girl in his arms. His tone was very calm as he used the way he used to teach the child. There are many celebrities like this in entertainment companies. What you see is only the surface of these people. Aju, I don't object to you chasing celebrities, but there has to be a limit to chasing celebrities. You have been staring at this person's Weibo since just now. You even forgot to brush your teeth and take a shower, even if you like him very much. At this point, Baijuan paused as if he was enduring something. He repeated, even if you like him very much, you shouldn't let him affect your daily life. Moreover, are you sure that he's as good as you look? Am I right? Entertainment companies are too good at packaging these people. You don't even know what his most real side is like. It's too rash to say that you like him. If it was in the past, the little girl in his arms would have immediately put down the mouse and chanted Amitabha. Then, she would have sincerely prayed to Buddha and admitted her mistake. However, things were a little unexpected. Not only did little Aju not listen to him, but she also looked at him very seriously. Her little face also became serious, and her tone was full of protection. Even if I haven't seen him in person, I know that he is different from other celebrities. He is him. This was the first time the little girl refuted him. Moreover, she was so righteous. Baijuan could not tell what he felt in his heart. He always thought that he was the most important in Aju's heart. But now, he realized that this perception was wrong in some aspects. He had seen the little girl like this before. It was not long after Aju arrived here. He took her shopping because Hai Lu said that Bailey Shangxia was not good. She even said that she wanted to beat Hai Lu up. Do you like that celebrity that much? Baijuan looked sideways and saw that the little one was still staring at the laptop screen. He was instantly enraged. Since you are so disobedient, what do you want me to do? Baijuan flung his hand, threw the notebook on the bed, slammed the door, and walked out. Little Aju still did not understand what had happened. She sat up straight. Was she disobedient? Little Aju did not know if she was obedient or not, but this trouble was indeed caused by her. She also heard from little Gangsterly that her little brother had done a lot of things for her and spent a lot of effort. Was it because she was disobedient? Little Aju thought about the comments on Weibo that scolded her. Some people said that having a sister like her was a burden. She wondered if she was really as clingy as those people said. It was already so late, but she still asked her little brother to help her write comments. Usually, at this time, her little brother would have already gone to bed, and she would be staring at the computer all the time. But she wanted to see her big brother more. Her big brother seemed to have grown taller again. When she touched the screen, she was really happy. After knowing that there was a Weibo, she wanted to send a comment to her big brother. She should have waited until tomorrow. Why was she in such a hurry? Little Aju tilted her head and raised her small fist to hit her big head. Idiot Aju. As she said that, the child stood up and ran downstairs. Baijuan's shadow was long gone. On this day, little Aju slept alone. She looked left and right, but there was no one around. She could only sit up and start to meditate with her legs crossed. After an unknown amount of time, she looked outside. The sky was still dark, but Grandpa Bai had woken up. She went to ask Grandpa Bai, "Grandpa Bai, where did little brother go?" "Don't worry about that kid. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he insisted on staying at the Li family for a few days. He even told people not to look for him." Grandpa Bai slept very little and was a very light sleeper. "Come, Aju, sit over here. Tell Grandpa, have you done anything interesting in school recently?" She felt that she had to answer this question seriously. Every day is very interesting. It's just that those people are too weak and can't spar with me. The teacher also told me not to always beat people up and to reason with them. But I don't like to reason with them. I just like to chant scriptures and beat people up. Grandpa Bai was amused by the little girl's seriousness. You have to listen to the teacher. Even if you want to beat people up, you have to endure it. I know that. After that, I became very kind. The little girl wore the little tiger pajamas and spun around on the sofa. But Grandpa, isn't little brother not used to living outside? He has to hug something to sleep. Grandpa Bai raised his eyebrows. He has to hug something to sleep. When did his grandson have this hobby? Yes. Little Aju nodded heavily. Grandpa Bai smiled helplessly. Little Aju, don't think that I'm an elder. When your little brother is stubborn, even his parents can't persuade him. I saw that he left in a huff just now. Even if Grandpa goes to the Lee family now, he might not come back with Grandpa unless we wait for him to think it through himself. Let's wait a little longer. Okay. Little Aju sat there and closed her eyes. Grandpa Bai was about to carry the little girl up. Little Aju said, Grandpa, we've been waiting for a minute. Let's look for little brother now. Old Master Bai burst out laughing. He stroked the little girl's head with his big palm. Little Aju, not everyone is like you, able to understand problems so quickly. Most people are always immersed in their own thoughts. Sometimes, it's very difficult for them to come out. Therefore, they need a lot of things, and we have to give them this time. Do you understand? Yes. After little Aju finished speaking, she added, Buddha Woolley said that this is called obsession. Having an obsession means that you care. Grandpa Bai was shocked. Master once said that you have a fate with Buddha. I only understand now. You're right. It's precisely because you care that you have an obsession. But this time, little brother was angry not because of an obsession, but because she was disobedient. Little Aju twisted her small body and glanced at Lee Heilu's house. Her little head drooped, and the little tail of her pajamas swept the stairs as she walked back step by step. Grandpa Bai looked at the little girl's lonely back and thought about the sound of his grandson slamming the door just now. Did these two children quarrel? Chapter 1168. On the other side, Master Lee, who had been dug up in the middle of the night, rubbed his eyes and looked at Bai Juan in surprise. Master Bai, why are you here? It's a little abnormal at night. I'm here to stay the night. After saying that, Bai Juan sat on the sofa opposite him, his fingers fiddling with his game consoles. Master Lee immediately sobered up. Stay the night. Master Bai, who had never shared a bed with anyone, came to stay the night at the Lee family's house. What's wrong? Am I not welcome? Bai Juan drank a mouthful of water, and his broken hair hung down, blocking his eyes. Master Lee shook his head vigorously. You're very welcome, but Master Bai, didn't you say that you were sleeping in the same bed as someone else? So I'll sleep on the bed later, and you sleep on the sofa. Bai Juan touched Master Lee's face with a cup, which meant that he was going upstairs. Master Lee's face was full of disbelief. Whose house was this? No, wait a minute, did you come by yourself? With Master Bai's 24 hours a day desire to see little Aju, was it really not normal for little Aju not to follow him? Can't I come by myself? Bai Juan turned his face sideways. However, Master Lee could still feel the different coldness emitted from his body at that moment. Okay, too okay. It was definitely not normal. Master Lee was also a wise man who adapted to the situation. His mind turned quickly. Looking at Master Bai's attitude, it was definitely because the two of them had a falling out. But thinking about it carefully, Master Bai doted on the child so much that he wanted to hold little Aju in his hand. Little Aju also kept to Bai Juan's words. Why were the two of them falling out? It was not easy for Master Lee to be smart for once, and he was very gossipy. He took out his phone and sent Shaolin a WeChat message. "Brother, there's a situation. Master Bai ran away from home and is now staying at my house. Do you want to come over and watch?" Master Li waited for a minute, but there was no movement on his phone. He thought that Shaolin had already fallen asleep. He did not expect that after a while, Bai Juan finished showering, his WeChat message also rang. Young Master Xiao only sent him 2 words, "Wait for me." Sure enough, no matter how boring a person was, they were powerless in front of gossip. Li Hailu rubbed his chin and laughed again. When he looked up, Master Bai had already changed into a simple white t-shirt. He lifted the blanket and was about to sleep. "Master Bai, what time is it? Why are you sleeping? You'll get high when you do it." Li Bawang thought to himself, if the male lead falls asleep, how can I continue to gossip? Bai Juan glanced at him and then looked at the watch hanging on the wall. 12:30. "Don't you want to copy tomorrow's homework?" Little Gangster Li shrank back and put his arm over. "Master Bai, don't be so serious. I see that you are in a bad mood, so I want to help you solve your problems. How about playing games with you?" Master Li originally thought that Bai Juan would refuse, but he did not expect Bai Juan to actually smile at him. His eyes were a little cold. "All right." "What? Why wasn't Master Bai sleeping at this time?" Sure enough, there was a situation. No matter what, he had to open his laptop and connect to the internet first. Little Gangster Li logged in with his game account and glanced sideways at Lord Bai's swift and fierce finger technique. He didn't know who Lord Bai was hacking in the game, but one thing was certain. The other party would definitely be beaten countless times. When he was almost done, Master Li deliberately pretended to be uneasy and said, "Brother, let me tell you, this child will rebel when she is 5 or 6 years old. Look, when I was 6 years old, my father didn't let me wet the bed, so I deliberately made him drink it. In the end, he found out and chased me all over the courtyard, wanting to strangle me to death. Don't talk about such a wicked thing." Bai Juan was as good as always. Master Li glared at him. He thought to himself, am I not comforting him? I haven't even gotten to the main topic and he's already attacking me personally. Only a Jew could withstand his attacks. However, Master Bai, what's wrong with you and a Jew? Is she also rebellious? Master Li advised Bai Juan like an adult. Master Bai, she's a girl, so she can't be that rebellious. You should give in to her. Bai Juan didn't say anything, but the strength in his hand was exceptionally strong. Master Li couldn't help but ask again, why? You really want to know? Bai Juan turned his eyes to look at him. The corners of his mouth were still half-curved, and he didn't seem to be in a particularly bad mood. Master Li thought that he had seen a glimmer of hope, so he nodded desperately. Bai Juan turned his attention back to the game. I don't want to tell you. Master Li was speechless. Then why did you ask so many questions? He really wanted to beat someone up. Fortunately, at this juncture, Shaolin pushed the door open and walked in. He looked up at the two of them. Are you playing a game? Bai Juan glanced back at him. Yes, do you want to join? I came to take a look. Shaolin walked over and looked at the defeated little gangster Li. Li Hailu immediately understood and gave up his seat. As soon as Shaolin sat down, he said, I just came from the Bai family. The lights are still on there. Aju is still so young. She's probably not used to sleeping without someone to accompany her. Bai Juan put down the mouse in his hand. He looked like he wanted to stand up. However, when he thought of what the child had said today, that thought immediately faded away. Even his voice seemed to be a little foggy. She will get used to it sooner or later. After saying that, Bai Juan put on his headphones. His slender fingers tapped on the mouse. It was a very beautiful operation. This time, even Xiao Lin was surprised. He turned around and looked at Li Hailu. The two of them communicated with their eyes. Xiao Lin, what's going on? Master Li, how would I know? I was in a daze when I heard Master Bai say that he wanted to stay the night. I was so scared that I peed my pants. Xiao Lin, I was asking why they quarreled. Master Li glared at him. I don't know about that either. Just now, when I asked, Master Bai started to attack me personally. He even said that he would let me sleep on the sofa today and he would sleep on the bed. Xiao Lin did not communicate with the other party and directly stood up. Master Li reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Where are you going? Go home. It's already so late. It's time to sleep. Xiao Lin said very righteously, you should go to bed early too. Don't think too much. Master Li gritted his teeth. Fuck, this guy actually ran away at the last minute. Hailu, didn't you say that you would join the game? Aren't you going to play the game? Bai Juan's voice came from behind. Master Li glanced at the time on his watch again. It was 1:00 in the morning. This was the rhythm of driving someone to death. After logging into the game, he saw that Bai Juan's account was red. Many people were shocked. They sent him private messages to ask him what was wrong with the Almighty. He could not kill the people of the Alliance. Master Li said, my account was hacked. On the other hand, he had to be on guard against Master Bai who would kill him if he did not see it. This night had been really sad. Little Aju, what happened to you and your little brother? Chapter 1169. Little Aju didn't know either. But the next day, the first thing the child did when she opened her eyes was to look for Bai Juan. Little Aju had always woken up early. After all, it was a habit she had developed in the temple to do morning exercises. Moreover, the job of buying breakfast for the Bai family was now handed over to her. Therefore, before 6:00 in the morning, little Aju knocked on the door of the Li family in her running shoes and a small sportswear. The person who opened the door was Li Hailu's grandmother. Little Aju was very polite. She bowed and said, Grandma Li, I'm looking for my little brother. In the entire courtyard, Grandma Li liked little Aju the most. Looking at the child's small face and big eyes, she cried out, my little baby, your little brother and brother Li are still sleeping. The two of them must have been secretly playing yesterday. Today, we didn't even hear a sound. I see. Little Aju lowered her big head in disappointment. The cat tail on her head even swayed twice. Grandma Li also felt that there was something wrong with the two children. Usually, when did the boy from the Bai family not bring little Aju with him? Yesterday, it was a little strange. Little Aju, did you quarrel with your little brother? No. Grandma Li raised her eyebrows. If they didn't quarrel, why did it become like this? It's Aju who is not obedient. The child pouted and said, I won't be clingy in the future. Grandma Li was confused when she heard this. Clingy. That boy from the Bai family did not mind that Aju was clingy. Every day, when she left for a while, he would be extremely worried. Even someone as old as Grandma Li had never seen a child raised like this. It was as if he doted on her to the bone. However, this time, the boy from the Bai family did seem to think that Aju was clingy. No wonder the child would think so. Little Aju did not call Bai Juan back. She was a little listless during breakfast. Her lotus root-like calves swayed there, and she did not eat much. She felt that she could not continue like this. Without her little brother, she felt that it was strenuous to drink soup. In the past, when she was in the temple, this kind of situation would not happen. It must be because she was too dependent on her little brother. This was not good. She was going to be the abbot of the temple in the future. How could she not even be able to do such a small thing? After thinking it through, little Aju waved her little claws and finished off all the fried dough sticks. She thought that when it was almost time for school, she would go to the Leaf family again. Little brother had to go to school. Without the chauffeur, how could little brother go to school? However, this time, Aju missed again. When he came over to ask, it turned out that Baijun had already left in the Leaf family's car. Little Aju was stunned for a while before she climbed into the car by herself. She sat in the back seat of the driver's seat, and her little mind was blank. When they got out of the car, the other students in the school were also there. Why did she come by herself today? Where's school hunk by? I heard that he came in another car. It's really strange. This school hunk bai's surname is Bai, right? Why did the car become a special seat for an outsider? Lower your voice. Don't let her hear you. School hunk bai doesn't allow anyone to say such things. Didn't you watch the live broadcast? Even if this child is adopted, the Bai family still treats her as their own. We have to be careful. Of course I saw it. If I didn't see it, I wouldn't have known that school hunk bai's family was so powerful. They're really too handsome. Little Aju listened to the discussions and carried her small school bag. She lowered her head and kicked the small stone under her feet. If it was in the past, she would not have cared about these words at all. But today, she thought about it. During dinner, only she and Auntie Wang were at the dining table. The seat that should have been by Juan's was taken by her. Also, the car that she took to school today was also by Juan's. This way, she was in the Bai family, but Bai Juan had left. It was as if she had taken Bai Juan's things. But Bai Juan had also said that they were family. Family should be together. Little Aju always felt that there were two voices in her mind. This was a phenomenon that had never happened before. The white cat on top of her head narrowed its eyes and called out, "Meow." Little White. Little Aju picked up the little white cat. Are you hungry? I'll feed you snacks during class. The child finally diverted her attention and fed the little white cat a lot of food. As she fed it, she muttered to herself. It turned out that she was chanting scriptures. Little Aju was chanting Buddhist scriptures. When she went down the mountain, her master had told her to chant the Tranquil Heart Sutra when she encountered problems. After chanting for a while, the little girl stood up. Unfortunately, the bell for class had already rung. It was not appropriate for her to go in now, so she automatically stood in the corner as punishment. Little Aju, I'll secretly watch the teacher for you. Come in, the classmate by the window whispered to her. The little girl chanted Amitabha. You can't do anything against your conscience. Woolly Buddha will see it. Just like that, little Aju stood in the corridor for a period of class with the little white cat on her head. The teacher also felt sorry for the child, so she did not let her go under the sun. However, these things still reached Bai Juan's ears. Brother, are you really not going to see little Aju? I heard that the child was punished by their teacher. Li Hai Lu described very exaggeratedly. That little face is red from the sun. It's not like you don't know little Aju's physique. What if she gets sunburned? Bai Juan clenched his hand that was holding the pencil. He lowered his head and continued to solve the math problem. He did not say a word. Only his fingers slowly exerted strength. Li Hai Lu was actually very sleepy. He felt that Master Bai was simply a genius. He did not sleep at all last night. He probably only slept for less than 2 hours at 5 or 6 o'clock. He was actually able to drag him to class at 7:30 in the morning. Other than his exceptionally cold face, it was completely impossible to tell that he had suffered from insomnia yesterday. Instead, his facial features had a kind of overly fair beauty. Unlike him, who started to yawn as soon as class started, the math teacher had already glared at him 3 or 4 times in a row. If he continued to glare at him, he would definitely call his parents. What Li Hailu was most afraid of was that the teacher would talk to his father. The teacher's original intention was to let his father have a good and serious chat with him. However, when his mother was not around, his father would only chase after him seriously and beat him up all over the courtyard. This was really a very bad memory. Master Bai. Li Hailu did not believe that Bai Juan would not care. However, it was obvious that Bai Juan had entered the state of doing questions. It was as if he could not listen to anyone. The math teacher, on the other hand, was a little unlucky. Because when he wrote down the second solution, Bai Juan raised his hand and said in a very calm voice, "Teacher, it's not right to solve this problem like this." The math teacher liked Bai Juan the most. When he heard that it was not right, he raised his eyebrows and called Bai Juan to the podium. His original intention was to teach this kid a lesson so that he would know that even if he was smarter than the teacher in class, he should not directly point out the teacher's mistakes. Chapter 1170. In fact, if this matter had happened in the past, Bai Juan would not have said anything even if he found out that the teacher had calculated wrongly. After all, he had always kept a low profile. When he sat in the classroom, he usually read some knowledge that could only be learned in high school. Other than waiting to pick up his sister after school, he basically did not think about anything else. No one knew what was going on today. Bai Juan changed his usual self. Not only did he correct the mistakes, but he also wrote 3 solutions in a row. The third one was actually easier to understand than the math teacher's. The math teacher was a little embarrassed. As soon as class ended, he pulled Master Li over. "What's going on with Bai Juan?" Master Li waved his hand. "I don't know." "If you don't know, who knows? If you don't want to tell me, I'll call your parents." The math teacher took the textbook and left. Master Li glared. Why was it that Master Bai was the one who was in the wrong, but he was the one who called his parents? What happened to fairness? Facts proved that Bai Juan was indeed a little off today. Every teacher could feel the faint murderous aura from their most prized disciple. The English teacher comforted the math teacher. "Don't be like this. You should be happy. The students you taught are better than you." Math teacher, what kind of comfort is this? It was really embarrassing to be crushed by a junior high school student's IQ. In addition, a few students who often played games with Master Li and the others also ran over when it was time for lunch break. "What happened to Master Bai yesterday?" "I was doing an AFK mission and got hit 3 times. Whoa whoa." Master Li simply did not want to tell them how many times he had been beaten. Most importantly, sleeping with Master Bai was also a technical job. If Master Bai did not sleep, he could not sleep either. He could not sleep in class. It was not easy for him to be obedient for a day, but in the end, the teacher actually found a reason to let him call his parents. What was going on? Master Li felt that if Master Bai did not return to normal, he would definitely break down. Little Aju did not know the situation here. The child was obviously a little distracted in class today. The teacher also saw it. After school in the afternoon, he walked over and patted her head. "Little Aju, aren't you going home? You don't have to be on duty today." The little girl looked in the direction of the door and said very seriously, "I'll leave later. If little brother comes and can't see me, he will be anxious." The teacher was also a responsible person. She squatted down and said, "Then I'll wait with Aju." "Amit ba. Teacher, you are such a kind person. You will definitely be rewarded." Little Aju made a gesture that was often made in Buddhism. When the teacher saw this, she couldn't help but laugh. Then I'll take advantage of Aju's auspicious words. Little Aju knew that her teacher did not believe her words. After going down the mountain, many people did not believe her words. But she did know how to read people's fortunes. For example, little brother's facial features were especially good. Even his body didn't have the smell of other people. According to the Buddhist scriptures, such a person was the most upright. Even her master had said that the little brother was invulnerable to ghosts. However, these things were not that important to little Aju. Most importantly, time passed bit by bit. Bai Juan, who always waited outside the door in advance, did not come to pick her up from school this time. The female teacher could see that little Aju was very depressed. She raised her head and looked outside again before saying, "Aju, it's raining. Can I send you home today?" "There's no need to trouble teacher." Little Aju stood up and carried her tortoise-shell school bag on her back. "I can go back by myself. The driver is waiting outside." As soon as little Aju finished speaking, Vice Commander Zhang came over. He held an umbrella in his hand and seemed to be very anxious. "Little miss, I thought you were lost. Fortunately, you are still in school. Where's little brother?" Although she knew that she should not ask, little Aju still could not help but ask. Vice Commander Zhang paused for a moment before saying, "Young master called and said that the teacher had asked him to stay. He will probably go back very late today." "I see." Little Aju nodded her little head. "Then I'll go back obediently first." Vice Commander Zhang smiled. Yes, the old man is still waiting for little miss to go back for dinner. As he said that, he turned his head and said to the female teacher, "Thank you, teacher. Aju has always been obedient. It's just that I didn't expect that Bai Juan would actually be asked to stay in the office because he had offended the teacher." What exactly was going on? He was such an all-round talent. Weren't all the teachers in the middle school fighting to accept him as their disciple? Little Aju climbed into the Hummer parked at the school gate and looked at Vice Commander Zhang. "Little brother, are you going home for dinner later?" "Young master probably won't go back. He said that he will stay at the Leaf family to do his homework today." Little Aju nodded. She lowered her little head and hugged her little white cat. Even her ears drooped down. Vice Commander Zhang could not bear to see her like this. "Why don't I call the Li family again tonight and ask?" Little Aju shook her head and did not say anything. After returning home, she turned on the computer and found Bailey Shangxia's Weibo. She registered an account for herself. The last time her second brother came, he said that if there was anything, they could discuss it with him. Should she leave a message for her big brother and ask him how to solve this kind of problem? The little girl hesitated for a moment and typed a line of words. After little Aju finished posting, she waited there eagerly. She originally thought that if she posted something, her big brother would see it. Later, she found out that Weibo had to be a private message. Bailey Shangxia was a celebrity, so of course, he would not accept anyone's private messages. Little Aju looked at the message that was drowned out by the comments and was completely depressed. Perhaps she should listen to Grandpa Bai and give her little brother some time. After little Aju thought it through, she did not go to the Li family again. She obediently accompanied the old man to eat. When she was bored, she began to roll on the sofa. In the middle of the meal, old Master Bai received another call from Bai Juan. "Brat, what's wrong with you? You don't even come back for dinner. Halu's grades haven't been good these 2 days. I stayed at the Li family to tutor him." Bai Juan's tone was very indifferent. Little Aju was listening by the side and knew that this was an excuse. Not to mention old Master Bai. He glanced at the little girl beside him and lowered his voice. "Aju is by my side. Do you want to talk to her?" The other end of the phone seemed to pause for a moment, and then the sound of rain could be heard. No, Grandpa is here. After saying that, Baizhuan hung up the phone. Old Master Bai was so angry that he almost choked. He looked at little Aju, who was staring at him with her big eyes. He could only cough a few times before saying to the little girl, "From the sound of it, your little brother is still in school. It shouldn't be very convenient to talk to him." Chapter 1171. Okay. Little Aju answered listlessly. She did not insist on looking at old Master Bai anymore. Instead, she lowered her little head and looked at her little tail. She thought that at least she could talk to the little brother. However, the little brother hung up the phone before she could get it. Although little Aju was slow in some aspects, it did not mean that she was stupid. The little brother was obviously avoiding her. Little Aju lowered her head and tugged at her little tail. This little pajamas was picked out for her by the little brother. Thinking about it carefully, many of her things were bought for her by the little brother. Old Master Bai looked at the little girl's lonely appearance and did not know what to say. Old Master Bai was already so old, but he only knew how to teach people in the army. When it came to coaxing children, his grandson was really better at it. Little Aju was still polite. She whispered to Old Master Bai in a childish voice, "Grandpa, I'm going to sleep first." Then, she lowered her tiger tail and went upstairs. Old Master Bai felt that it was still not enough, so he called him again. "You brat, what's going on?" "Nothing." Baizhuan's voice was still very indifferent. He did not even go home for nothing. Did he really think that he was old and confused? Old Master Bai raised his eyebrows. "I've already told you to change your personality. If even little Aju can't stand you in the future, you'll regret it." This time, it was Old Master Bai who hung up the phone first. Baizhuan looked at his phone and then looked at the continuous rain outside. He subconsciously used more strength in his palm. That night, Master Leek felt that Master Bai's murderous aura had become even stronger. It was different from yesterday. Yesterday, it was at least early in the morning. Even if it was red, it was in the middle of the night. It would not hurt many people in the game. After dinner at 8 o'clock, it was simply the explosive period for games on the internet. Little Gangster Lee watched as Lord Bai beautifully killed countless players. This time, it was great. His screen was blown up by someone. There were even people who offered a bounty to kill Master Bai. However, to be honest, Master Bai's skills were invincible. Moreover, Master Bai was rich. 1,000 yuan was enough to buy a new piece of equipment. Li Hailu did a little calculation. He had spent 7,800 yuan just playing games today. If he continued to spend, his pocket money for this month would be used up. "Master Bai, let's take it easy. I'm almost out of money on Alipay. It's only the beginning of the month. Really, can you take it easy?" Master Li did not want to eat dirt in the future. Baizhuan only glanced at him. He raised his eyes and threw him an Alipay account and password. "Use this to charge." Li Hailu obediently went up. When he saw the number inside, he was shocked. 10, 2 zeros, 3, why do you have so much money in your Alipay account? Their pocket money should be the same, why did Master Bai have so much? He had 2 more zeros than him. Shaolin opened his mouth at this time, with a hint of subtlety, because when we usually play games, we play for others. Baizhuan's account has already bid 2,000 yuan for helping others play once. Of course, there's a lot of money in Alipay. Those should be the money that hasn't been saved into the card yet. Damn it. Why is it that I spend money when I play games, but you guys earn money when you play games? Li Hailu was not convinced. From today onwards, I want to earn money too. Make money. Shaolin was very non-committal. He looked sideways at the pair of beautiful hands. Aren't you going back today? To tutor Hailu. Baizhuan clicked the mouse 3 times in a row. It was a youthful trait. Shaolin thought to himself that he was not here to tutor. He was clearly here to start a massacre. Fuck. The loudspeaker is spamming us again. Li Hailu was distracted while playing the game. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Master Bai, why did you beat me up too? Baizhuan seemed to have paused for a moment. I didn't see you just now. Li Hailu thought to himself, how angry is he? He didn't even see his name. Shaolin also felt that Baizhuan and Iju's quarrel this time was not that simple. Logically speaking, Baizhuan was the most mature one among them. He really knew how to raise children better than their fathers. Why did he take the blame for Iju? Moreover, Baizhuan's behavior was clearly that he was sulking. What was going on? Shaolin gave Li Hailu a look. Li Hailu immediately received it and ran downstairs to steal a bottle of red wine from his father. He had risked his life to steal this bottle of red wine. However, drinking red wine was troublesome. He had to use a bottle opener. Li Hailu had no choice but to take another risk. Fortunately, his mother was back, so his father did not have the time to keep an eye on him. Li Hailu's shrunken body stood up straight as soon as he entered the room. He had the demeanor of a young master. Come, Master Bai, let's have a drink. Baizhuan glanced at the ground. The good red wine was paired with a paper cup. It was not Li Hailu's fault. If he took a wine glass, it would be too obvious. If he took a paper cup, he would say that they were drinking soda. Baizhuan did not refuse. He took off his headphones and drank a glass of red wine. Shaolin watched from the side. He reached out his hand and knocked on Li Hailu's back 3 times. He meant to wait for him to drink 3 glasses in a row before he spoke. Li Hailu secretly nodded. Who knew that after Baizhuan drank 3 glasses, he was still in the same posture? He did not show any signs of getting drunk at all. On the other hand, Li Hailu could not find where to go after drinking 1 glass. He was still leaning against Shaolin and giggling foolishly. Shaolin held his forehead. How did he end up with such a stupid teammate? He directly kicked him away. After all, Li Hailu had rough skin and thick flesh. Speaking of which, this was the first time the children had secretly drunk wine. Wasn't it always like this on TV? They used to drink to drown their sorrows. Who knew that Baizhuan would not get drunk? Shaolin had no choice but to ask directly, what's going on between you and Iju? Alcohol was really a good thing. Even though Baizhuan was a little inhuman, if he could not get drunk after 3 glasses, he would get drunk after 5 glasses. After 5 glasses, Baizhuan finally tugged at his collar. Do you also think that I'm too possessive of Iju? Shaolin thought to himself that he still knew his shortcomings. It seemed that he was still not drunk enough. He poured another glass. Don't give me that stuff anymore. Baizhuan's beautiful lips curled. Come downstairs with me. Shaolin raised his eyebrows. Why are we going downstairs? Iju came to look for me. Baizhuan's tone was very calm, and his expression was also very calm. Even his feet were very steady. If Shaolin did not have eyes, he would have really come because of the child. But in the end, it was very likely that Baizhuan was really drunk. With this guarantee, Shaolin said, she didn't come. Impossible. Baizhuan turned around. His side profile was very good-looking. Shaolin was speechless. Why did he have to discuss this kind of thing with a drunkard? Chapter 1172. After about 10 seconds, Baizhuan asked Shaolin again. The youth looked very stubborn, as if he had to have an answer. Why did you say that she didn't come? Shaolin felt that at this time, it was best for him to answer properly. There's no sign of her down there. Then it should be because it's not time yet. Baizhuan sat down again. He was really too calm. There was no sign of him being drunk at all. However, from what he said, he was already very drunk. She'll come after school. At this time, Li Hailu also woke up. He looked at Baizhuan in disbelief as he started to sit beside the desk and do his homework. He had a fucking expression on his face. Brother, what's going on? He drank too much, Shaolin whispered in his ear. Baizhuan raised his eyes again. There's still no one. No. Shaolin already had the experience to deal with it. He took the opportunity to ask, why don't we go and pick Aju up from school? No. Baizhuan's voice was stiff. It was obvious that his mood had changed. Li Hailu and Shaolin looked at each other. They had only seen Master Bai's duplicitous appearance a few times in a year. The clock began to tick. Baizhuan had been asking the same question for almost half an hour. The two of them could not hold on any longer. Li Hailu hugged the red wine bottle. Baizhuan finished all three of their homework and was about to raise his head to ask. Li Hailu interrupted him. Master Bai, no one is looking for you. This was already the 20th time. Why did he always ask the same question? Li Hailu was about to cry. He would rather do his homework than answer the same question all the time. Thinking of this, he looked at his brother's obviously cold face, cleared his throat, and said, Baizhuan, why don't we discuss what to eat? You didn't eat much just now. Aren't you hungry now? Make a soup of tofu. Don't put meat in it. Aju can't eat meat, so she likes to eat. Forget it, you can make anything. Baizhuan turned his face sideways, his eyes seemed to be a little cold. This is not the Bai family, and she's not here. Li Hailu was really thankful. Baizhuan finally figured out where he was and what state he was in now. But who knew that it did not stop for a while? Baizhuan took out the laptop beside him again, plugged it in, and prepared to turn it on. Are we still going to play? Li Hailu really felt that he did not have the energy to carry out another massacre in the game. Most importantly, it was already 9:30 p.m. He didn't sleep well last night. If he played all night today, he would definitely call his parents tomorrow. Master Bai, can we play tomorrow? Li Hailu is already exhausted. However, Baizhuan only glanced at him. Who said I wanted to play games? Then what are you doing with the notebook? Shaolin is still relatively calm. After all, he's a child. He's much more knowledgeable and can handle any situation. He's very talented in diplomacy. Baizhuan lowered his eyes, and his black hair fell down. With a serious expression on his face, he said, log on to Weibo and post a comment. Posting comments on Weibo. After Shaolin heard this answer, he felt that he could not keep up with Lord Bai's train of thought. They only did live broadcasts and never used Weibo. Shaolin. Shaolin was a little surprised that he was named. As Baizhuan typed, he said, do you think I should also be a celebrity? Lord Bai, wake up, please. You're the only grandson of the Bai family. You want to be a celebrity. Then what should I do? A nurse. Li Hailu rubbed his chin. Being a nurse is not bad either. There are many beautiful women in this industry. Shaolin chuckled. He really did not want to evaluate his brother's IQ. Only Li Hailu would become a nurse in order to find a beautiful woman. First, he had to figure out the problem. Bai Juan, why do you suddenly want to be a celebrity? Didn't we agree to enlist together at the age of 18? After Xiao Lin finished asking, Bai Juan sneered. He can attract fans, so can I. Who is he? Xiao Lin and Li Hailu took another look. They turned their heads in unison and looked at the computer screen. It was a face that was born with the aura of a vampire noble. Especially when he smiled, there was always a faint sense of wickedness in his smile. It was not that they did not recognize this face. The girls in the class chased after celebrities all day long, and this young master was the most popular. Moreover, when little Aju was in trouble, he exposed Ruan Xian on the show. Why would Master Bai look at his Weibo? Bai Juan opened his mouth again. His voice was very normal. You're just a little fairer than me. Are you more handsome than me? No. Li Hailu was serious. Master Bai, you are the most handsome in my heart. Our skin color is at least natural, right? But Aju likes white. When Bai Juan said this, he seemed to be a little conflicted. His brows were furrowed. Do you want me to buy some facial masks to make myself more pink? Pink. After Li Hailu heard this adjective, his entire mouth was wide open. Master Bai, you can't be serious, right? Please don't. You really look like a domineering warlord now. Pink and tender are not suitable for you. No, there seemed to be something wrong with the screen. Wait a minute. Master Bai, why are you using my Weibo account? Bai Juan glanced at him and said calmly, of course I have to use your account to scold people. If little Aju knows that I scolded the person she likes, she will hate me. Li Hailu was speechless. What he said made sense. He was actually unable to refute it. Master Bai, are you drunk or not? Why are you so scheming when you're drunk? Little Gangster Li is really about to cry, because soon, he was attacked on Weibo like never before. Young Master's fans are really crazy. Xiao Lin also took a look at the Weibo. He reached out and tugged at Li Hailu's sleeve. His voice was very soft. I'm sure he's drunk. Look at the comments he posted with his account. Li Hailu moved to the left and saw that there were more than a dozen posts under the Weibo. They were all the same. To put it simply, there was only one sentence, and that was, Aju is mine. She will be mine for the rest of my life. Li Hailu's eyes widened. What was going on? Moreover, Bai Juan was still happily scrolling through the comments. 10 minutes had passed. If it weren't for the fact that Bailey Shangxia had too many fans, he would have dominated the screen. However, most people were attacking him. Who asked him to scold people? He was really wronged. When would he be able to change his physique of lying down? It was not easy for Bai Juan to stop scrolling through Weibo. He stood up and asked, where's the mask? He was a young man in development. Why would he have a mask? Chapter 1173. I don't have a mask. This time, Li Hailu's refusal was very justified. Bai Juan narrowed his eyes and looked at him for a while. You don't have a mask, and you still gave us wine to drink. Master Li was speechless. Was there any connection? Just as his face was filled with confusion, Bai Juan stood up, pushed the door open, and said to the outside, Uncle Li, Hailu stole your wine to drink. That voice was not loud at all. But the person standing downstairs was Master Li's father. Master Li was completely petrified. Fuck, brother, you can't be serious, Bai Juan, you traitor. When Master Li's father came up, he was quite calm. His gaze swept across the room, and he was very dignified. You, come out. Master Li directly lay on the bed, looking as if he was not going out. He shouted, "I didn't drink much. If you don't believe me, you can ask Shaolin." It was the two of them who drank. In fact, that was indeed the case. However, Shaolin was the most convincing one among them. Before Master Li came up, this guy had already taken an English book and held it in his hand. "Hai Lu, you can't blame us for your mistakes. We're here to tutor you. Have you forgotten?" Li Bawang glared at him. "Tuition my ass. Shut up." Master Li's father pulled his son's ear and turned to Shaolin with a very amiable smile. "Shaolin, Xiaozhuan, the two of you wait for a while. After I teach this brat a lesson, I'll bring him up." "Okay, uncle, as you wish." Master Li was speechless. He was wronged. Why was he the only one who looked like he had drunk wine? It was fair. "You brat, you don't learn good things all day. How old are you to steal wine to drink?" Just like that, the day passed by in such a chaotic manner. Bai Juan did not know how he fell asleep. At that time, he still did not understand what it felt like to have an empty heart. What made Master Li feel fortunate was that at least after drinking, Master Bai did not play all night. From about 10 o'clock, the three friends slept on the floor respectively. "You're sleeping on the floor instead of a bed." When little gangster Li's mother came to deliver the fruit platter, she looked at the three teenagers and shook her head with a chuckle. Little gangster Li's father watched from the side. "You don't understand. I was like this when I was young. Our son has finally grown up, but he doesn't sleep well. My hands itch when I see him." Of the three of them, Li Bawang was the only one who could do whatever he wanted. Bai Juan was the last to sleep. He even covered the other two with a thin blanket. The Li couple watched from outside. "Is there something wrong with Xiaozhuan's heart?" "Ah. I'm not sure." "What's the matter?" Li Heilu's father was so slow. "You even said that your son deserved a beating. You're not much better. When have you ever seen little Juan like this? He stayed over at someone else's house, unless it was that year." "Now that you mention it, that's true." Mrs. Li was speechless. She glanced at the handsome man beside her and sighed. "Why does our son's IQ follow yours? What's wrong with following me? It's useful for chasing after a wife." Mrs. Li smiled for a while and said, "In the past year, I thought that Xiaozhuan had thought things through. After all, he has become much more cheerful. Brother Bai and sister Luo are no longer around, and I only come back occasionally. Watch over Xiaozhuan. If there's anything, talk to him more." "I talk to Xiaozhuan." Li Bawang's father really did not believe in his own ability. "I'll go to the Bai family tomorrow and ask what's going on." That works too. However, none of them knew what he meant when he said those words. The next day, at about 5 o'clock in the morning, little Aju was already preparing to return to the mountain. As soon as the big rooster in the courtyard crowed, little Aju carried her small tortoiseshell schoolbag and went out with the little white cat on her head. At that time, Auntie Wang had not gotten up to make breakfast. Logically speaking, an ordinary child would not be able to push open the door of the Bai family's house, but little Aju had never been an ordinary child. When the door opened, little Aju quietly left the Bai family's house. When she passed through the courtyard, the breakfast in the cafeteria had just been prepared. The smell of steamed buns could be smelled from afar. Little Aju hesitated for a long time between the two options of going to buy 10 steamed buns and leaving early. In the end, she touched her little belly and chose the former. "If you want to go back to the mountain, you have to bring enough dry food," little Aju said to the white cat on top of her head in a childish voice. "Otherwise, you will be hungry on the way." The white cat meowed and wagged its tail behind her head. There was no one in the cafeteria at this time. After all, 5 o'clock was too early for breakfast. Little Aju, are you here to buy breakfast again? The steamed bun seller obviously knew the child. Little Aju nodded. I want 10 steamed buns this time. Uncle, can you help me wrap them in paper? Paper. The uncle who bought the steamed buns looked around and said to the little girl outside the window, wait for a while. After it was wrapped, he put it in a bag. Little Aju took it, put one in her mouth, and walked out of the cafeteria with her short legs. At this time, the road was not congested yet. However, there were not many buses around the military compound. Little Aju first looked left and right, then chose the right direction according to her memory. After walking for a long time, she finally saw some cars. At this time, people also started to come out. When they saw such a little person walking on the street, they could not help but look back. Little Aju was originally very cute. She was wearing a small monk's robe, and her big eyes were very clear. In addition, she had a big steamed bun in her mouth, and there was a white cat swaying above her head. She was like a doll that had walked out of a comic book. I remember that the car did not pass by this place. The little girl muttered to herself as she walked to the right. There was a small square on the other side, and many people were exercising there. The little girl walked over and looked curiously. The old people were also looking at her. They thought to themselves, why isn't there an adult following behind this child? Little Aju held the big steamed bun in her two little paws and asked seriously, Grandpa, do you know how to get to the bus station? Bus station. The old man paused and asked patiently, Little girl, which bus station are you looking for? The bus station that can go back to the mountain. As little Aju spoke, she squatted there like a little turtle. Grandpa, do you know? The old man frowned. The mountain. Child, why are you going to the mountain? I'm going back to ask my master some questions, little Aju said as she fiddled with the strap of her small school bag. Her serious look was very cute. Chapter 1174. When the old man saw that she was wearing a monk's robe, he thought that she was a little liar. But even if she was a liar, this child was too obedient. The old man had a good heart. After thinking for a while, he took out 10 yuan from his pocket and handed it to little Aju. Child, I don't know the place you're talking about. Take this money. If you're thirsty, buy something to drink. Little Aju looked at her little palm. Her little face was a little confused. She tilted her little head, and her eyes were full of question marks. Why did the old man give her money when she asked for directions? I don't want money, but I have it. The little girl returned the money. Then, she put her palms together and chanted, Amitabha. Since the old man here didn't know, she would go somewhere else to ask. It was just that at another intersection, there would always be benefactors who would give her money. Little Aju reached out and patted her little head. Little White, the old man and the others must think that I'm asking for money. Meow. The little white cat sat in her arms obediently, as if it was echoing her words. Little Aju hugged her pet and sat on the curb next to her. I need to eat another steamed bun and calm down. The little white cat was speechless. This was just an excuse to eat a steamed bun. However, what made little Aju feel strange was that even if she sat down to eat a steamed bun, people would still throw coins in front of her. Little Aju scratched her big head, completely unaware that she was being watched. I found a little nun at work this morning. She's so cute. This was how the crowd posted on their WeChat moments. There was also a photo of little Aju eating a steamed bun with her little paws stretched out. It was indeed cute. Little Aju felt that it was not a good idea to stay here all the time, so she patted her little Kasaya and stood up. Seeing that a bus was going from the east, she followed the crowd and got on the bus. The child really brought money with her. There was a lot of money in her tortoiseshell bag. She saw people swiping their cards and putting in coins. She also took out 2 coins, but she had to tiptoe to put them in. Once again, the child felt that her height had become her weakness. At this time, there were not many people on the bus. Little Ajut found a seat and swayed her lotus root legs, looking out of the window with her big eyes. What should she do? She wanted to eat steamed bun again. The little one lowered his head and rubbed his tummy. In the end, he decided to bear with it. It was no wonder that the child did not know how to take a car. Usually, the driver would send her when she went out. Now, it was her first time doing everything. Little Aju always felt that the route was right at the beginning, but later on, it was a little wrong. Therefore, little Aju stood up cleverly. Taking advantage of the last stop, she asked the conductor, "Auntie, I want to go to the mountain. How do I get there?" The conductor thought that the child was going to Fragrant Hill, so he immediately said, "Child, you've taken the wrong bus. Get off from the next stop and you still need to change." Little Aju listened attentively to the route the conductor was telling her. When they arrived at the destination, she got out of the bus. However, the ticket seller did not know that the mountain that little Aju was talking about was not the Xiangshan mountain in the capital. However, she was a little worried in her heart. How could the people at home rest assured that such a young child would go out by himself? Along the way, she kept reminding Aju to be careful. At this time, it was the most congested time of the day. It was 8:00 in the morning, and there was a traffic jam everywhere. Many office workers were busy squeezing into the subway and buses. The old Beijing city opened its prosperity in a different atmosphere. The smell of fried dough sticks and tofu pudding mixed in the air. Everything looked so lively. The well-decorated Li family was in Master Li's bedroom. Bai Juan held his head and woke up. He could even smell the strong smell of alcohol all over his body. Bai Juan shook his head. He first moved the leg that was draped over his body away. Then, he stood up and walked into the bathroom. He casually threw off the white t-shirt on his body, revealing his tall and straight back. His actions were very handsome. Only when the water poured down from above did he wake up a little. Shaolin woke up when she heard the noise in the bathroom. When she saw that it was almost 8:00, she quickly kicked Master Li, who was lying horizontally, awake. "Get up quickly. You're going to be late for school." Master Li grabbed his head that was like a chicken's nest. His eyes met Bai Juan's as he walked out of the bathroom. "Fuck, Master Bai, you're finally sober. Do you know what you did yesterday? You betrayed me. Is that so?" Bai Juan wiped his hair and asked Shaolin, who was beside him. Shaolin smiled slightly. "No. You two bastards are in cahoots." Master Li shouted as he began to put on his clothes. "Master Bai, even if you don't remember that you betrayed me, you still remember that you crazily scrolled through Weibo and said that you wanted to go down and wait for a Jew, right?" Bai Juan's hand that was wiping his hair paused. It was obvious that he did not remember anything. He did not answer Master Li's words. Instead, he took his school uniform and put it on. Shaolin could more or less see that Bai Juan was a little absent-minded. But in fact, Bai Juan was more than just absent-minded. His chest was very uncomfortable. That kind of discomfort was as if something was pressing down on him. As long as he thought of a Jew's attitude towards Bailey Shangxie, Bai Juan felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured on his body. He was drenched from head to toe, making him unable to sleep soundly. If it were not for the bottle of red wine yesterday, time would definitely have been very difficult to endure. Yesterday, when it was raining, he looked out of the window for a long time. It was so long that he cut the English test paper that he resisted the urge to pick her up. In the end, when he arrived at the Li family, he was even more unhappy. Shaolin knew Baizhuan quite well. Looking at his appearance, he knew that he was not feeling well. He patted Baizhuan's shoulder and said, "All right, we'll talk about it later. We're almost late. Go down and eat something. We'll leave immediately." Master Li also began to pack his school bag in a hurry. The three youths walked downstairs and had just sat down to eat a bun and finish the porridge. Auntie Wang ran in from afar. She looked very anxious, and even her forehead was covered in sweat. "Young Master Li, is Miss here?" "Ajou." Master Li bit the bun in his mouth and did not forget to drink a mouthful of soy milk. "I didn't see her come over." When Auntie Wang heard this answer, half of her body went soft. Her voice immediately carried a sobbing tone. "What should we do? I've also searched the cafeteria, but I don't see Miss anywhere. She's not in the room either. She didn't even come down for breakfast today." Hearing this, Baizhuan, who was at the side, suddenly stood up. That usually handsome and smiling face had now lost all its smile. It was as if the blood in his body had suddenly been frozen by something. He had never lost his composure before. Chapter 1175. What about other places? She's not at the training ground or at the small sand pile that she often goes to. Baizhuan was really anxious, and anyone could see it. Because he had never been as out of his mind as he was today. Auntie Wang looked at the young master's expression and blamed herself. "It's all my fault. Miss usually wakes up at around 6 o'clock. I clearly know that. I didn't see her today, so I thought she woke up late. I should have gone upstairs to take a look at that time. Maybe Miss wouldn't have gone missing. Ajou wouldn't have gone missing." Baizhuan's voice sank. "She must be somewhere. That's right. She must be somewhere. Continue to search. Search the room and the courtyard." Based on Shaolin's understanding of Baizhuan, he knew very well that the other party had already lost his mind. Otherwise, he would not have used such a method of searching for a needle in a haystack. Baizhuan had really looked everywhere. He ran back and forth in the entire courtyard. Every time he met someone, he would ask if they had seen Ajou. Finally, he asked about the cafeteria. The steamed bun seller said that Ajou had come to buy steamed buns. It was not even 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Baizhuan raised his wrist and looked at the time on his watch. It was already 8:30. He had searched the entire courtyard, but he still did not see Ajou's shadow. Why was it like this? Baizhuan was born in the courtyard. He knew very well that once a child went missing, the best time to search was within 2 hours. But now, it had been almost 3 hours since Ajou disappeared. Where on earth did she go? Baizhuan raised his hand and fiercely chiseled the wall at the side. There was a bang. Li Hailu, who was following behind him, was so scared that he was full of worry. "Master Bai, it's all my fault. If I had gone home to sleep yesterday, Ajou wouldn't have had such an accident." When Baizhuan said this, his throat hurt. Only he knew how much he regretted it now. Why did he have to be angry with a child? He was just chasing after a celebrity. Ajou was so young, and she could not stand the sun. Where would she go in such hot weather? Baizhuan glanced sideways. His youthful and handsome face was covered in a layer of sparkling and translucent sweat. Even his black hair was drenched in sweat. However, he seemed to not feel anything at all and continued to search. Shaolin really could not stand it anymore. He put his hand on Baizhuan's shoulder and stopped him. "Baizhuan, calm down. Maybe things are not as bad as you think. Think about it carefully. Is the courtyard a place where anyone can enter? If something really happened, how could we not know? Since even Auntie Wang only realized that little Aju was missing later, and she even went to the cafeteria to sell steamed buns, something bad might have happened. Master Li was also standing beside Bai Juan. The three youths didn't even want to go to school. After such a thing happened, none of them had the mood to go to school. Fortunately, Bai Juan finally listened to Xiao Lin's words a little. He turned sideways and his eyes calmed down a little. Then, as if he suddenly thought of something, he immediately turned around and strode toward the guardhouse. Get me today's entry and exit records and video recordings. The people standing guard in the courtyard were all military personnel. After all, Bai Juan was not an adult yet, so he did not have the right to order them around. Young Master Bai, we have to wait for old Chief Bai to come before we can get you the records. Bai Juan heard this and did not care about what his grandfather had taught him. He directly barged in. He was not unfamiliar with computers, so he directly entered the time segment and began to search for the records in the video library. Young Master Bai, you can't do this. The guard shouted anxiously behind Bai Juan. At this time, Xiao Lin and Master Li had a tacit understanding. The two of them worked together to block the front. Bai Juan turned on the four-sided mode. The so-called four-sided mode was to observe four scenes at the same time. The time he entered was from 6 to 7 o'clock. According to what the uncle in the cafeteria said, since he saw Aju at about 6 o'clock, if Aju really left the courtyard, then it must be in the middle of this time, Bai Juan said as he focused on looking at the scenes from 6 to 6:10. Those scenes flashed very quickly. The guard at the side was already dumbfounded. Bai Juan seemed to be doing some review questions. His eyes quickly followed the scenes. In the end, his mouse paused and stopped on a scene. Then, he quickly magnified it to the maximum. Found it. Master Li could not help but shout. Even the guard at the side paused for a moment. Master Li looked at the video that was only 3 seconds long and frowned. Little Aju, she left on her own. After saying this, Master Li subconsciously looked at Bai Juan. He had never seen such a pale face on Bai Juan's face. He originally thought that there was an accident. But now, he could clearly see that Aju had left on her own. Other than her, there was no one else. Bai Juan looked at the video and felt as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out in an instant. He remembered what his grandfather had said to him yesterday. He said, "Be careful. Even Aju can't stand you." Bai Juan's stiff fingers moved. It was as if even standing up had become a little difficult. At this time, old Master Bai walked in with his walking stick. He was dressed in a military uniform and looked very dignified. He first looked at his grandson and let out a long sigh. Then, he took out a piece of paper. This was found in your and Aju's room. Aju put it on the desk where you often do your homework. Take a look. Bai Juan was shocked and took the piece of paper over. Little brother, when you see this piece of paper, I have already left the courtyard. The Bai family is your home. You can't not go home because of me. Grandfather will miss you, and I will miss you too. I know that I'm too clingy, and sometimes when you look at me, you can't do your own thing, so I decided to go back to the mountain. I thought about it, and I still think that life on the mountain is more suitable for me. After going down the mountain, I will only be with little brother, and little brother will definitely feel tired. Woolly Buddha said that we must give others a certain amount of free space, otherwise the relationship between two people will become more and more unkind. I don't want to become like that with little brother. In the future, when little brother misses me, you can come to the mountain to see me. When I miss little brother, I can also write to little brother. There's no phone in the mountain, but I can write to little brother. The last sentence was something that the child had recently learned. There was even a very cute little paw print on the back. There were 4 words written seriously on it, from a Jew. Chapter 1176. Bai Juan looked at the words on the paper. His fingers clenched tighter and tighter, so tight that his knuckles turned white. From the first day he met little Ju, he seemed to have made the child suffer. Even if he had not grown up, he was still a junior high school student. He had clearly told himself to take good care of little Ju. But in fact, he had been doing something for the past 2 days. It was fine if he avoided the child, but he did not even pick her up from school. Bai Juan could even imagine how depressed the child would be. He was the one who said that she would always be family, but he was also the one who did not do it. Bai Juan bit his lip. He did not even notice that his lip was broken. In the end, old Master Bai could not bear to see his grandson torture himself like this. Let's go. We'll go to the mountain now and bring little Ju back. No. Bai Juan suddenly raised his head. Little Ju has never taken a car before. She doesn't know the way back at all. Grandfather, she hasn't returned to the mountain yet. We have to find her. Use the Bai family's connections to find her from the surveillance cameras. This was the first time Bai Juan had taken the initiative to use the Bai family's power to do things. The Bai family's family rules had always been strict. Bai Juan was also special among these children. He seemed to have relied on himself since he was young, and had never let the family worry about him. But now, it was simply an unprecedented exception. At that time, Shaolin only felt that no matter how principled a person was, these principles would be broken because of the appearance of another person. In fact, that person would make you not like yourself. Was it at that moment that the love that was often mentioned by adults was born? The youths were still young after all, so there were some things that they had to rely on their families. To transfer the surveillance cameras, they had to go through many departments before they could get the street. Generally, the higher-ups meant that whether it was a child or a woman, they could only file a case if they were missing for more than 24 hours. But in fact, everyone knew that 24 hours was too long. If little Ju really encountered any danger during this period, Bai Juan would definitely regret it for the rest of his life. He could not wait at all, and he did not want to wait. The current situation was already very obvious. Although little Ju was not taken away by someone, no one could predict what would happen to her after she left the courtyard. No matter how good the security in the city was, there would still be human traffickers. Little Ju was only 6 years old. She was already younger than ordinary children, so it was inevitable that she would become the target of human traffickers. Even if these did not exist, Ju would not know the way here. Bai Juan couldn't wait to put more cash in the child's small pocket the night before he went back. This way, even if he got lost, he wouldn't starve the child. Seeing that it was almost 10 o'clock, as long as Bai Juan thought that the child did not have anything to eat for lunch, his heart would clench and clench. He had seen those dirty children under the overpass. They were all following the adults and asking for money from passers-by. He could not imagine how much his heart would ache if little Ju became like that. Right now, he only hoped that his little Ju would meet kind-hearted people, even if they could just give her some food. On this day, the citizens in the city did not know what was going on. They only saw military vehicles driving in front of them. From the number of the vehicles, they knew that they were from the army. Is there going to be another meeting? That's impossible. Didn't we just finish a meeting a while ago? If it's really a meeting, there will definitely be people checking on the subway. The subway is not very strict today. Then what's the matter with these military vehicles? That's a little too much. I don't know, but it is indeed quite strange. Time passed bit by bit. Little Aju originally listened to the ticket Andy's words and went to change the bus, but she did not know what was going on. Why was it that even though they were both mountains, this mountain was completely different from the one she had lived in before? The more little Aju looked at the mountain, the more depressed she felt. Knowing that this was not the place she was looking for, she took the bus back to the city. After sitting for a while, the child became sleepy. She held the little white cat in her hand, and her little head was nodding like a little roly-poly toy. It was very cute. In addition, she was wearing a kasaya, which made her even cuter. After sitting for almost half an hour, when she heard the announcement of the stop, little Aju rubbed her big eyes with her claws and followed the person out of the bus. "Little White, do you smell that? It smells so good here." Little Aju moved her little nose. Carrying the little white cat and carrying the little turtle school bag, she walked forward with the fragrance. It turned out that little Aju had arrived at Wadayaku in a daze. In this place, not only were there many schools, but there was also a lot of people. Even the food was countless. Occasionally, she could hear people passing by talking in Korean. Little Aju tilted her little head and listened for a while. Then, she ran to the side of the road and looked at the uncle pushing the cart with her big eyes. The uncle was still giving change to someone, but when he lowered his head, he met little Aju's gaze. When he saw that she was wearing a kasaya, he was stunned for a moment before he smiled. "Child, are you hungry?" Little Aju nodded. The uncle deftly flipped his hand and spread the noodles on the pan. "Look, uncle will make you a pancake. Try it." There was a sizzling sound. Little Aju asked about the smell of the egg inside and her little claws followed. The white cat jumped on her head and wagged its tail back and forth. After the pancake was ready, it was very hot. The uncle very considerately folded 2 more layers of paper for little Aju. "Try it. How does uncle's pancake taste?" Little Aju was not afraid of the heat. Smelling the fragrant pancake, she took it and took a big bite. Her little face was puffed up as she ate. She looked very delicious. Originally, they did not plan to buy pancakes, but when they saw little Aju eating so cutely, they all lined up. Little Aju was not full after eating 1 pancake. After eating the pancake that the uncle handed to her, she clapped her little hands and also lined up with the others. When it came to shopping, if there was a little girl in a kasaya in the middle, anyone would not be able to resist looking at her. Little Aju did not pay attention to this. As a little foodie, she only lifted her small school bag, thinking that she would buy a few more pancakes later. When she saw little brother in the future, she would give them to him. Little brother loved to eat noodles, so he would definitely like to eat pancakes too. Yes. The child did not change her habit of nodding when she agreed with her own opinion. When others saw this, they would only feel that their hearts were about to melt, especially after the little girl took the pancake and put the money in the money box. She even bowed and chanted Amitabha. She really looked like a little monk. Oh whoa. Now that little Aju had something to eat, she became more energetic. Just as she was about to study the next route, she suddenly heard a scream from not far away. Chapter 1177. Little Aju was still eating pancakes with her head buried in her mouth. When she heard the sound, she immediately looked behind her. On the busy road, a child ran to the middle of the road in order to chase after his balloon. On the child's left side, a sweeper did not have time to step on the brakes. The driver's expression could even be seen through the car window. He was still desperately stepping on the brakes. The most dangerous thing was that there was a Mercedes-Benz sports car on the child's right side. Everyone felt that the child was definitely hopeless. Even if the sweeper could stop, the Mercedes-Benz could not. Unless the 2 cars collided heavily, the child would definitely not be able to escape this calamity. The one who screamed was the child's mother. She seemed to be in despair and wanted to run to the middle of the road to save her child. The person behind her desperately pulled her with his hands. He even started to hug her because he did not want her to risk her life. It was as if someone had pressed a button in slow motion. The ear-piercing sound of brakes tore through the bustling Wadaiku. Almost everyone could not help but hold their breaths. They could not bear to see the heart-palpitating scene of flesh and blood flying everywhere. But at that moment, the owner of the pancake stall suddenly felt a small whirlwind blow past his ears. When he looked up again, he saw that little Aju, who was originally standing beside him, had tiptoed over the guardrail on the roof of the car. Her speed was very fast, as if it was the long-lost Qingong that was shown on television. Everyone was stunned, including the child's mother. They all paused for a moment. But in less than a second, little Aju leaned over with a pancake in her mouth and picked up the child, who was only a little younger than her, by the waist. Immediately after, there was a loud bang. The sweeper hit the guardrail on the side. The Mercedes-Benz sports car sped past and stepped on the brakes. The sound of brakes rang out one after another. People looked at the little person wearing a kasaya and shuttling on the roof of the car. They all covered their mouths. They were surprised and worried. And the most incredible thing was that they could actually see the legendary ancient Qingong in modern times. Did this little monk transmigrate? After little Aju landed on the ground, the people coming and going raised their phones and took a few photos. Some people posted on their WeChat moments and some posted on Weibo. The scene could almost be described as exhilarating. When I passed by Wadaiku, I witnessed the quintessence of China's 5,000 years of history, Qingong, floating on a carriage. Let's not talk about this anymore. Hurry up and look at the picture. This little monk is so adorable. His saving posture is so cool. Fuck, are you sure it's not a film crew? Another movie is coming out to create hype. Hype my ass. Wadaiku is in an uproar. If you want to see the cute little thing, come quickly. This little monk who knows Qingong, I really want to take him home and raise him. Almost in an instant, the image of little Aju wearing a kasaya to save someone occupied the entire internet. Therefore, in some ways, little Aju was also like her brother. She would become a trending topic whenever there was a disagreement. When the child's mother saw that Aju had brought her son back, she immediately hugged her son in her arms. She cried as she said, "Thank God." The child was also scared silly by the scene just now. Holding the toy in his hand, he still hadn't come back to his senses. The child's mother stood up and kept saying to Aju, "Thank you." Aju was still holding the pancake in her mouth. She puffed up her cheeks and said, "Amitba." After saying that, she didn't forget to bow. That serious little look could really melt one's heart. The child's mother didn't know how to express her gratitude again. She only patted her child's back in a panic, and there were still tears on her face. Seeing that the child was fine, little Aju carried the little white cat and wanted to leave. When she raised her little head, she realized that she was surrounded. That scene just now was really too shocking. Not only was the little girl's saving speed amazing, but she was also able to fly in the air with just a tap of her toes. This had already evoked the deepest yearning in people's hearts for the word Qingong. Little kid, where did you learn Kung Fu? Can it be taught? Do you think I can learn it? I met a fortune teller before and he said that I was a martial arts genius. Feel my bones. Me too, me too. I promise that I'm also a good seedling. Little Aju looked at her brothers and sisters who were stretching out their arms towards her. Her little face was a little confused. She shook her lotus-like little arm and looked behind her. Then, she lowered her little head and poked her arm with her little finger. At this time, people saw that she was injured. Although it was only a scratch, it was obvious that her skin was scraped. Little Aju lowered her head and pouted her little mouth to blow. The child did not know what was going on, but the more she blew, the more aggrieved she felt. She thought that she missed her little brother. If her little brother was here, he would definitely apply medicine for her. After applying the medicine, her arm would not hurt anymore. Now, even her hand was swollen. Even if little Aju had the fate of Buddha, she was still just a child. She could not stand the pain at all, so she shook her little arm. Even if the people beside her wanted to help her, they did not dare to do it. After all, she was not their child. Once they carried her, they would not be able to explain themselves. Moreover, the injury was not serious. It was just a scratch. But no one knew. Or rather, people could not empathize with each other. For Bai Juan, if little Aju was scratched even a little, his heart would ache for a whole year. But for others, it was just a scratch. Fuck. Master Bai, look at this. Little Gangster Lee, who was sitting in the front seat and scrolling through WeChat, handed the phone to Bai Juan in the back seat. Look, doesn't this look like little Aju? It was not just similar, it was simply her. Therefore, when Bai Juan saw the photo, he immediately asked someone to turn the car around. His eyes were heavy, and his fingers clenched the phone in his palm tightly. Faster, faster. The performance of the cars from the army was basically good. In addition, Bai Juan and the others were only a kilometer away from little Aju's current location. However, they did not know if it was because of the accident that had just happened, but the traffic in front of them was very bad. Bai Juan could not wait any longer. He opened the car door with a bang. Just like that, he held little Gangster Lee's phone and ran in the direction of the shopping mall at Wadayaku. No matter how Vice Commander Zhang called him from behind, he did not turn around. Vice Commander Zhang was worried about him. It was noon, and the sun was so hot that it could almost roast a person. The young master was already anxious. What if something happened to him because of the heat? Chapter 1178. It was indeed hot, especially in the north. At 12:30 in the afternoon, the dazzling sun shone down on people's eyes. It was impossible to open one's eyes in the summer. There were cars and people everywhere, and there were all kinds of sounds coming from everywhere. However, Bai Juan acted as if he did not hear it at all as he ran forward in large strides. Xiao Lin looked at the noble youth in the car who would never go out to play in the summer. His food and clothes had always been the best. Even old Master Bai could not bear for him to be exposed to the sun. He still remembered that Bai Juan had once said that unless it was especially necessary during military training, he would not run out for no reason because he did not like to sweat. Xiao Lin could not tell what he felt when he saw Bai Juan working so hard. However, if there was a chance, he would definitely tell little Aju personally, the only person who can make that pampered young master Bai give up his pride is you. Bai Juan did not think so much. He only wanted to be faster, faster. From time to time, he would raise his head to look at the photo on his phone and compare his location. Then, he continued to run forward. It should be right in front. Bai Juan looked at the dense crowd in front of him. He no longer thought about whether he would be stained with the sweat of others. As long as he thought of his little Aju standing nearby waiting for him to find her, Bai Juan's speed became faster and faster. He passed through the crowd that he used to hate the most. His back was already drenched in sweat, and the pure black hair on his forehead was also drenched. It stuck to one side, so much so that even his vision was somewhat obstructed. Bai Juan raised his hand and wiped away the sweat on his chin. He continued to use his arm to push away the people in front of him. His hand was originally injured when he was chiseling the wall in the morning. Now that it was soaked in sweat, the back of his hand was swollen. It looked painful. Li Hailu watched from the car seat not far away as Baijuan buried his head in the crowd and pushed them away one by one. For some reason, his eyes actually felt a little hot. He had seen too many sides of Baijuan. Some were domineering, some were sneering, some were lazy and unruly, and some were polite. Every side of Baijuan was so perfect. Even those adults would say that you must learn from that kid from the Bai family and so on. But he had never seen Baijuan like this. The young man's tall and straight back seemed to be in a sorry state at this moment, but his eyes were filled with an indescribable firmness and gentleness. Just how much did she care to be able to do this? Finally, Baijuan finally rushed to the front of the crowd. Little Aju was still standing in front of the glass building, shaking her injured little arm. She did not expect that when she raised her head again, she would see her little brother. Baijuan also saw her. For some reason, the child's small school bag was dirted. His hair, which was always neatly combed, was messy. His kasaya was covered in dust, and the pancake crumbs that he had just eaten were also stained on it. His entire body was dirty. What made Baijuan the most jealous was the scratch on the child's arm. Without thinking, he directly carried little Aju up. He did not care if the ground was dirty or not. He lowered his eyes and blew at little Aju's little arm. He coaxed her, "Be good, it doesn't hurt anymore. Little brother is here. Aju doesn't hurt anymore." The little girl was originally sitting in Baijuan's arms obediently. When she heard Baijuan coaxing her, she stretched out her two little claws and hugged Baijuan's back. She tilted her little head and rested it on Baijuan's shoulder. Her pink and tender little mouth curled up as she directly buried her little face in Baijuan's neck. Sometimes, some feelings seem to be like this. We can face enemies with incomparable valiance, even those in different gazes. But when the person who loves us appears, that kind of valiance will turn into grievance. And this kind of grievance seemed to be contagious. It was transmitted from the person in his arms to him. At that moment, Baijuan felt that the whole world had mistreated his girl when he was not around. He stood up with little Aju in his arms. The sweat on his back was still dripping, and the side of his handsome face was also full of sweat. However, he did not care about himself at all. Instead, he patted little Aju's back casually. Only then did little Aju see clearly that her little brother's face was full of sweat. She stretched out her little hand to wipe Baijuan's sweat. She did not forget to report today's schedule. "I just bought a pancake for little brother. That pancake was especially delicious. Be good." Baijuan freed a hand and lifted little Aju's bangs. He kissed the child's forehead. "Go with little brother to apply the medicine first. We'll eat the pancakes tonight." Little Aju nodded her little head obediently. Then, she stretched out her little hand and waved it towards the ground. "Little Bai, follow me." That cat was surprisingly obedient. No matter what little Aju said, it seemed to be able to understand her. It wagged its tail and followed behind the two of them. The child's mother insisted on thanking little Aju properly. Those who hoped that little Aju could teach them Qigong were all politely rejected by Baijuan. His voice was very faint. His entire body was as if he had just been fished out of the river. His entire body was covered in sweat, but it could not hide the unique nobility on his body. He was like a pool of clear spring water in summer, penetrating people's hearts and lungs. "My little sister is injured. I want to take her to the hospital immediately. Please make way, everyone." People's hearts were made of flesh. Seeing that little Aju's arm was bruised in order to save someone, no one was too embarrassed to stop them and ask questions. Baijuan carried the little girl in his arms and passed through the crowd. Finally, he walked to the side of the military Hummer. Li Hailu immediately opened the car door. Shaolin also automatically made a large space for them. Both of their hands were injured, but they were surprisingly quiet. Little Aju did not let anyone apply medicine for her. She just hugged Bai Juan's back. Bai Juan was even more serious. Li Hailu even said that if he was too tired, he would let little Aju sit next to him. Anyway, the space in the car was big. Who knew that Bai Juan would not let go at all, let alone agree? A youth and a child quietly snuggled together. It always gave Li Hailu an indescribable illusion. Young master, should we go home first? In the end, it was Vice Commander Zhang who broke the silence. There's a medicine box at home. It's more convenient at home. There are too many procedures outside. As he said that, he said to little Aju, Miss, we'll discuss your return to the temple when we get home, okay? Every night before 11 o'clock p.m., there will be a delay after the update. It's usually 5 to 10 minutes, so the beauties can just come and read it at 11:10 p.m. Chapter 1179. Little Aju didn't say anything. Bai Juan opened his mouth as if he was a little unhappy. When he heard about returning to the temple, his voice was deep. Who said that she was going back to the temple? If she's not going back, she's going straight home. Little Aju's little face was still lying on Bai Juan's shoulder. After hearing Bai Juan's words, she stood up and said, I have to go back to the temple. Otherwise, little brother won't go home. I'll always go home in the future. Bai Juan held the child's hand. It's my fault this time. Aju, go back with me, okay? Little Aju thought for a moment and lay back in Bai Juan's arms. She put her little face on Bai Juan's shoulder and said obediently, okay. Bai Juan curled his lips into a smile. His slender fingers smoothed little Aju's hair. The hostility in his eyes also disappeared a lot, leaving only gentleness. Master Li and Shaolin looked at each other and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, little Aju was obedient and said that she would not return to the mountain. Otherwise, who knew what would happen to Bai Juan? Actually, there was no need to go to the hospital for such a small injury. However, when Lord Bai doted on the child, he basically wouldn't listen to anyone. He personally carried little Aju and asked her to check her arms and legs. She was afraid that the child would be hit by a car when she was trying to save someone, and the little guy would not know where it was. Little Aju sat obediently in the CT room. Her little ears were perked up, and she looked very cute. She did whatever the doctor asked her to do. Bai Juan looked at her from the side. He did almost everything himself. Even when putting on shoes, Bai Juan bent down and tied them for Aju. Other than the abrasions, everything else is normal. It's just that the child should be growing recently, so he should eat more calcium tablets and vitamins at home. As the doctor spoke, he smiled at little Aju. When little Aju heard the words grow up, she immediately perked up. Her little face was very serious as she nodded. Bai Juan smiled and was about to carry the child, but the child pulled his wrist and pulled him in front of the attending physician. Doctor, my little brother's hand is injured. Can you help him take a look? Vice Commander Zhang heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, compared to Mrs. Abrasions, the injury on young master's left hand should be more serious. That area was already a little swollen, and after being soaked in sweat, it must be more painful now. He had just mentioned to young master that he should take a look at his own hand first so that he could carry Miss for a checkup. But the young master only glanced at him and didn't say anything. It seemed that he didn't want to let go of the young miss at all. Deputy Zhang was worried that if this continued, the young master's hand might become infected. If it was the young miss who suggested it, the young master would definitely do it. As expected. As soon as little Aju finished speaking, Bai Juan followed her instructions and sat there. Little Aju's small body lay on by Juan's long legs. She raised her small face and asked the attending physician very seriously, "Doctor, is my little brother's hand okay? He still had to do his homework and play basketball. He had to get better soon. It's a little inflamed, but it's not a big problem. We need to disinfect it with alcohol first." As the doctor spoke, he wrote the prescription list. Then, he opened the medical iodine beside him, dipped a cotton ball in it, and pressed Bai Juan's hand. Bai Juan immediately frowned. Little Aju stood up straight and looked at the doctor. It was as if he had done something to make her little brother feel pain. The doctor smiled. "Good girl, this is alcohol. It's normal for your little brother to feel pain." "I'm sorry." Little Aju had always been obedient. She asked with her big eyes, "Then when will little brother stop feeling pain?" "Just a few more days of medicine." The doctor handed the list to Bai Juan. Bai Juan used his other hand to rub little Aju's head. The child's concern warmed his heart. The two of them finally made up. When Bai Juan, who was wrapped in bandages, carried little Aju to the Bai family, Auntie Wang finally had the mood to cook. Without needing old Master Bai's instructions, she quickly began to prepare dinner and made a large pot of northeastern stew. The fragrance was so fragrant that even Master Li drooled. Old Master Bai looked at little Aju, who was eating beside Bai Juan, and thought that the child had finally returned to normal. If little Aju did not eat for a day, he would feel uncomfortable in his heart. Not to mention, when his grandson was not around, when the little girl's ears drooped, no one could stand it. As for his grandson, he had finally returned to normal. After dinner, Shaolin and Master Li went home. Bai Juan carried little Aju upstairs and put hot water for the child. After testing the temperature of the water, he let little Aju go into the bathroom to take a bath. During this time, Bai Juan went to old Master Bai's study. Originally, he wanted to use the Bai family's influence to delete all the photos that had gone viral on the internet. After all, just the matter of Qinggong alone could attract the attention of some media outlets. In addition to the matter of his live broadcast, he did not want little Aju to have some unnecessary worries in her future life. What Bai Juan did not expect was that when he went online again, the photos that had caused the popularity had long disappeared. Could it be that someone had deleted the photos before him? Bai Juan frowned slightly. But in China, who else had the ability to do so? It was also night. At the entrance of the old alley in the capital, in an unassuming auto repair shop, there were no less than 8 LCD computers running at the same time. Each computer was running very fast. The barcodes that were running at high speed on them were not something that ordinary people could understand at all. Those computers seemed to be broken, but for those who knew the industry, they could quickly recognize that the garbled codes were in order. Someone had set up firewalls one after another on them. Moreover, when they attacked, they specifically attacked the other party's loopholes. Even when they withdrew, they started from the loopholes in the network. Immediately after that, there was a crisp sound of a slap. After Monkey pressed the enter key, he raised his head and looked at the figure sitting opposite him. "Boss, it's done. Look for me to get your salary tomorrow." Hellion Vivian stood up. She was wearing a pure black knee guard on her left leg, which made her legs look even more slender and fair. She also had short silver-gray hair on her head, which made her look a little like a comic character. There was a unique carefreeness in her handsomeness. This was the original outfit of the legendary Queen of Arms. On the other hand, Bai Juan could not figure it out at all because even old Master Bai could not get the exact information. The only thing that could be confirmed was that this should be done by an international hacker organization. However, there was no way to find out which organization it was. The IP that the other party used was originally a virtual IP. In addition, before this matter was taken seriously, the other party had already started to delete it. This way, it was even more impossible to find the other party's specific location. Chapter 1180. The more Baijun listened, the deeper his frown became. Alright, don't think about it anymore. Since you helped little Aju delete these photos, you should want to protect little Aju. Old Master Bai looked at his grandson, who had been more mature than his peers since he was young. He thought for a moment, opened the drawer, and took out a form. This is this year's enlistment information. The youngest is only 16 years old. You know that whether it's the Tang family or our Bai family, when the children reach the age, one of them must join the army. You told me before that you want to be a soldier. It's time to tell you this so that you can be mentally prepared. Baijun took the thing and said in a very calm voice, I'm still in junior high school. Isn't it a little too early to be prepared? Old Master Bai sighed and looked at him meaningfully. Grandfather wants you to be prepared to leave little Aju for at least 3 years. Hearing this, Baijun suddenly froze. Looking at his grandson's reaction, Old Master Bai shook his head and continued, when you graduate from high school, you can't bring little Aju to the military camp. Think about it carefully. If you say that you give up now, I will help you return this application. As he spoke, Old Master Bai stood up. In fact, from a selfish point of view, he did not want to send his grandson to that army. Should it be said that it was a coincidence? If it wasn't for that live broadcast, Baijun might not have been chosen by the most secretive army in China. Once he was chosen, no one could change it. That was the army that any soldier wanted to go to. As a leader, he was very happy that his grandson had been chosen. However, as an old man, he knew very well what kind of mission that army carried out. Other than danger, there was still danger. Now, he handed this choice to Baijun. If his grandson did not want to go, even if he did not want his old face and military rank, he had to think of a way. However, what Old Master Bai did not expect was that the voice behind him was actually a sentence. Leave this application here. I will fill it in when I graduate from high school. I will do what I promised father no matter what. Of course, Old Master Bai knew why Baijun said such words. Before the child's parents passed away, his son, who had made him proud all his life, always said to little Baijun, son, promise me one thing. The Bai family should be in the military camp since they were born. You should be the same. When you grow up, you must join the army. Father protects the country, and you protect the family. Do you understand? All right. At that time, little Baijun was much more cheerful than he was now. His voice was also very clear. He held his father's military cap and bumped fists with his father like a little man. It was as if he was fulfilling the promise he made back then. While others were planning which high school or university they would go to in the future, Baijun had already decided that he would join the army in the future. If Aju had not appeared, he might have gone when he was 16 years old. But now, he had to watch the child grow up a little before he could leave with peace of mind. Baijun came out of the study and looked at the bedroom that was one door away from him. He first steadied the emotions in his eyes before pushing the door open and walking in. As soon as he opened the door, he saw that Aju had already put on a dark yellow tiger pajamas. She was doing a little somersault on the bed with her tail up. This was an entertainment activity that children often did when they were waiting for Baijun to arrive on time. Mingming's little face was always exposed outside. There was even a strand of hair on the top of her head. She looked very cute. Baijun walked over and pulled the little girl up. He tidied her hair. Does your arm still hurt? It doesn't hurt anymore. Little Aju shook her little head and sat in Baijun's arms. Baijun smiled. Then do you want to listen to a story? If I say that I want to listen to a story, will you find it troublesome? Little Aju asked seriously. Baijuan lowered his eyes and kissed her little head. No, I will be happy. Little Aju was happy. Her soft little hand poked at the book, and she said very seriously, I told you until here last time. Continue telling me. Aju will try not to sleep this time. I will wait for you to sleep first, then I will sleep. Baijuan was amused by her appearance. He reached out and hugged the little body in his arms. He read the English in the book in a pleasant voice, which was also interspersed with Chinese. It was very slow and very low, and anyone could hear the gentleness in it. The gentle light at the head of the bed shone on the side of the youth's face. Baijuan read the book in front of the little girl without saying anything. It was not until little Aju could not help but lean her little head on his shoulder that Baijuan stopped with a faint smile. Just as he turned off the wall lamp, he heard little Aju say in a daze, Little brother, don't be angry with me. I will be obedient in the future. If you don't like me using Weibo, I will use it. Oh, when I grow up and become the abbot of the temple, I will give you half of the incense money. No more than that. I won't give it to others even if they ask me. Also, today's pancakes are really delicious. I thought that when I see you again now, it will definitely be a long, long time. When you come to look for me in the future, I will be so happy, very, very happy. The child's vocabulary had not reached a certain level, so she could only rely on the strengthened tone at the end to express her thoughts. After saying that, the little girl started to snore in his arms, not giving Master Bai any time to react. Baijuan smiled and reached out to push the child's short hair away. There was a thin layer of sweat on it. It seemed that today was really tiring for the child. Baijuan finally understood why he had been troubled by everything for the past 2 days. In fact, the more he forced himself to sleep, the clearer his mind became. It was all because there was one less person in his arms. He did not know when it started, but it had become a habit. Perhaps his grandfather was right. He had to start making preparations. As he thought about it, he lowered his head and kissed Aju's little head again. Then, he closed his eyes. His arm never left the little pillow in his arms. Sleeping had finally become something that could relax him. However, as he slept, for some reason, the burning wound that was originally a little painful actually felt a trace of comfortable coolness. This made Baijuan open his eyes in confusion. He saw that the little girl was rubbing her big eyes with her claws. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, pouting her small body and blowing cold air on his left hand. When Baijuan saw this scene, his heart was so warm that it was unbelievable. He reached out and hugged little Aju tightly in his arms. Be good, it doesn't hurt. Aju, sleep well. I saw little brother move. Little Aju said with her eyes wide open, so little brother, don't force yourself. If it hurts, tell me. Woolly Buddha said that it won't hurt after I blow on it. Baijuan did not say anything. Instead, he hugged the little girl in his arms even tighter. He thought that how could some incense money be enough? What he wanted was her. Chapter 1181. 6 years later, in the capital of the north. As the imperial capital of Huaxia, its culture and heritage were changing with the progress of the world. The fried cat ears of the old Beijing city and the candies that the children loved to eat when they were young had been replaced by other snacks. There was only one thing that had never changed, and that was the haze after winter in the north. Some people called the imperial capital the Fog City, and this name was not false at all. Evening was the busiest time in the imperial capital. Before the sky turned dark, the lights had already begun to light up. Large pieces of snowflakes fell from the top of their heads. 3 days of snow had already decorated the entire imperial capital exceptionally beautifully. It was probably because the winter vacation was coming, so high school students in school uniforms could be seen everywhere. They took the subway and bus in high spirits. Of course, there would also be parents who would drive to pick them up. However, before the winter vacation, the students had to experience one thing, and that was the most inhumane exam. Therefore, at this time, the second floor of Starbucks would be filled with students doing all kinds of exercises and tutoring. The adults could not help but shake their heads. Children nowadays are really precocious. How would we know to do homework in a coffee shop back then? Times have changed. Times had indeed changed because there was a very cruel thing that parents would never know, and that was that their children might not come to Starbucks to do homework, but to, "What do you want to eat for lunch? Is Burger King okay? Let's watch a movie after watching it. I want to see what new movies there are." The young man who said this looked very ruffian. When the corners of his mouth curled up, he had a mischievous aura that fascinated girls. However, the person next to him reached out and pushed the glasses on his face. He was elegant and noble. "Hi Lou, you forgot that you have to go back early today. Master Bai has a meal with him." Ah! Li Hai Lu had now grown into a heartthrob. He was wearing a leather jacket, which was very punk style. He patted his forehead. How could I forget about this? As he said this, he put down his phone and smiled at the girl sitting next to him. "It seems that we can only make an appointment another day. You can go shopping by yourself later." The girl was somewhat disappointed, but the beautiful school beauty of number 1 high school said, "Is Master Bai the Baijuan from your school? Since it's going to be a meal anyway, why don't we call him over to join us?" Li Hai Lu tilted his head and held the phone in his hand. He smiled. "Beauty Queen Gu, it seems that you're quite interested in our Master Bai." Gu Ro smiled gently and lowered her head to take a sip of coffee. She did not deny it. Seeing that, Li Hai Lu and Xiao Lin looked at each other. The latter slowly closed the book and smiled. "I advise you not to be too interested in Lord Bai. Because of his sister." Gu Ro was understanding. "I have a sister too. Maybe when we meet, we can talk about how to make my sister happy." Li Hai Lu burst out laughing. If Beauty Gu wants to discuss with Baijuan how to raise a child, then forget it. Master Bai only has 3 rules for raising a child, and that is, pampering, pampering, and pampering. Hearing this, Gu Ro was stunned. Li Hai Lu had already put his backpack on his back. He leaned over to instruct his little girlfriend and gestured for her to make another call. The two of them talked as they walked down the stairs, and they could still hear the sound of their conversation. "Where is Lord Bai now? He should be at the martial arts dojo, waiting to pick up a Ju. Then let's go home first. When I came out, I told my father that I was here to study. You have to go back with me and put on an act." Xiao Lin was speechless. The snow outside was getting heavier and heavier. Usually, at this time, the people sitting in the university's external self-study room reading books were not the university students of the school, but some people who were going to take the postgraduate entrance exam. The rows of seats were filled with people. On the blackboard in front of the self-study room, there would be messages such as selling postgraduate entrance exam materials, delivery, and so on. Among this group of postgraduate entrance exam students who were writing at a high speed, there was a very incompatible figure sitting there. Compared to the urgency of the postgraduate entrance exam students, his writing speed seemed to be very slow. His slender and fair fingers seemed to carry a kind of innate nobility. In front of him were college entrance exam questions from previous years. His ears were plugged with a pure white headphone cord, and light French music was playing from it. He did not seem to be in a hurry to do the questions. Instead, he looked at the watch chain on his wrist. When it was almost time, the young man stood up and put the test paper in its original position. He took his wallet and phone and walked out. His tall and straight back was like a green pine and green cypress. People could not help but want to take a look at him again and again. Even though the people sitting in the self-study room were preparing for the postgraduate entrance exam, some girls could not help but move their gazes because of the young man's departure. Of course, there were also some girls who specially came to see him. When the young man walked through the corridor, all of them held hands. That kind of surprised expression was no less than seeing a popular idol. The young man seemed to have long been used to such gazes. He carried his shoulder bag diagonally and wore a pure white down jacket with an unknown name on his upper body. The jacket had a vertical collar, and when it was straightened, it could directly cover half of his face. But even so, one could see how beautiful and deep his eyes were. The young man took a few steps and arrived at a training hall. From afar, one could hear the sound of laughter. In the past, someone had asked the young man why he came to a university self-study room to do test papers. The young man's tone was very light, and he only said 3 words, because it's close. It was close to the training hall, so it was convenient for him to pick people up and go home. The snow was still falling. The diamond-shaped snowflakes fell on the top of the young man's black hair, but it did not make him look embarrassed. Instead, it had an indescribable beauty. Black and white was the ultimate contrast. The young man leaned against the wall at the side, his long legs casually crossed. When he looked at the martial arts hall, there was a smile in his eyes, as if the ice had just melted. There was a kind of person who could amaze time. Let the people next to him feel it in an instant. The young man was such a person. Okay. Does anyone want to challenge me? As the sandbag fell, the voice of the coach sounded in the martial arts hall. From the young man's point of view, he could see many teenagers looking at each other hesitantly. Only one person, who was shorter than the other children, blinked her big bright eyes, and raised her hand particularly high. The coach who asked the question looked around, but no one looked at her. Very good. No one wants to challenge me. Then today's class will end here. Goodbye. The coach said as he quickly turned his head. What a joke, he did not want to lose face in front of so many students. He really did not want to recall the time when a certain child beat him down as soon as he entered the training hall. Chapter 1182. Seeing this, the girl who raised her hand tilted her head and scratched her little head again. She used all her strength to pull back the coach who was about to leave and said seriously, "Coach, I can challenge you." Ha! Ha! What's that? The taekwondo coach anxiously glanced at the clock hanging in the hall. Ayaya, it's already so late. Aju, look, I still have to pick up the child. Your brother should also come to pick you up after class. Let's talk about the challenge another day. Another day. As soon as he finished speaking, the coach ran out of the martial arts hall as if he was running for his life. The student was more powerful than the teacher. If this matter were to spread, he would not be able to be a coach anymore. The main reason was that he had let down the trophies he had won in the competition. He, a burly man who weighed more than 160 pounds, actually could not beat a cute girl. How shameful. This was a disgrace no matter where he went. Ajo looked at the coach who was wiping the corners of his eyes as if his heart was aching. She kept feeling that there was something wrong with the coach. However, Woolly Buddha had also said that white lies were allowed to exist in this world. She would just take it that the coach was going to pick up the child. Anyway, the little brother would definitely have arrived. Thinking of this, Aju packed her things faster. She bent down and tied her belt properly. She took the cup that Baijun had bought for her and walked out of the martial arts hall. Even though they had seen her often these days, the parents waiting outside found it difficult to look away when they saw her. They had really never seen such a beautiful girl before. Her hair looked smooth and long, like black silk, naturally scattered on both sides of her face. Aju did not wear any special clothes. It was the simplest taekwondo training suit. It had a white background, a red road sign, and a black belt tied around her waist. But even so, it could not hide the exquisiteness of her small face. Other than her skin being very white, her eyes were also very clear, like fine black gems. They were round and very cute. In addition to the little white cat on her head, she always gave people the feeling that she had walked out of a comic. The corner of the evening light shone on the side of her face. It was so clean that one could see the fine hair. She was different from the others. Aju did not need to cut her hair at all to be able to control the entertainment of taekwondo. What's more, the coach had not dared to let her fight ever since she entered the school. However, Aju herself was still very interested in beating people up, so she listened very seriously in class every day. 6 years was enough for a child to grow into a beautiful young lady. It was probably because Aju's food therapy over the years had taken effect. She was actually taller than her peers. But even so, the top of her head could only reach above Baijuan's chest. Aju was still looking for someone with the white cat on her head. When she saw the young man leaning against the wall, she ran over without thinking. Baijuan reached out and hugged her. His actions were very natural, as if everything had long become a habit. "Are you hungry?" Aju nodded and touched her small belly. "I've been hungry for a long time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let the coach go." Baijuan took the cup from her hand and held her hand with his other hand. Even the corners of his mouth were smiling. "Then, shall we take a taxi back today? Auntie Wang made your favorite dumplings." "Okay." Aju was always obedient. When the two of them stood together, for some reason, people could not take their eyes off them. Baijuan walked in front of Aju. From time to time, he would turn his face to talk to Aju. His voice was so gentle that it was unbelievable. He was the legendary cold and aloof school hunk who was very difficult to get close to. 12:30 p.m., in the military compound. When Li Hailu saw Baijuan walking in with Aju, he called out, "Master Bai, why are you so slow? I'm starving to death." "Auntie Wang, your young master and young lady are back. Hurry up and bring the dumplings up. We also need laba vinegar and chili oil. The dumplings are only delicious when they are eaten." Okay. Auntie Wang replied in the kitchen, "I'll bring the food out now. There's still a pot of hot dumplings in the pot. It's filled with beans. You'll definitely like it." Although Li Hailu and the others would be 18 by the new year, they still loved to eat the dumplings at home. They were a little different from other children. It was probably because of the habits they had developed since they were young. Their concept of home was stronger than that of other children. On Saturday and Sunday, other children liked to eat outside. Baijuan liked to eat at home, and even Li Hailu and Xiao Lin followed him to eat. Although they were eating dumplings, there were no less than 6 vegetarian dishes and a bowl of dumpling soup on the long table. There were cold eggplant paste, bamboo shreds in red oil, and hot and sour fern root powder on the table. Li Hailu was right. Eating dumplings still needed to be dipped in the authentic laba vinegar and then added in the chili oil. When it was put in the mouth, it could be said to be extremely delicious. Of course, this was the way the Northerners ate. With such a mixture of heavy flavors, all the flavors in the world were complete. The 3 young men also ate a lot. The main reason was that Aju ate together with the food. No matter how old the children were, when they ate, their cheeks would bulge like little hamsters eating. Baijuan sat next to Aju. Usually, he would eat one dumpling by himself. When he picked up the second one, he would blow on it and put it on Aju's plate. If Li Hailu was not smart in the past, ever since he had had countless girlfriends, he could more or less see the trick. He touched Shaolin with his hand and said very softly, "To be honest, do you think Master Bai dotes on Aju too much?" "How old is Aju?" "She's already 12 years old. When I touched Master Bai's chopsticks when I was 12 years old, he would directly kick me. Why is it that when it comes to Aju, all the rules are invalid? The main thing is that Aju doesn't need him to feed her anymore, right? What is Master Bai thinking? Is he planning to feed Aju for the rest of her life?" "Hailu." Shaolin started to pick up the dumplings in his bowl when he was not paying attention. "You can see that. It's not simple. As expected, people who have been in love are different." When Li Hailu heard this, he straightened his back. "What did I say? I asked you to pick up girls with me before, but you didn't. Now you're jealous of me." "Yes, I'm jealous. Not only is your IQ negative, but your EQ is also not online." Shaolin ate the last dumpling. "You really should have a few more relationships to accumulate experience. Otherwise, how can you marry your fiancé?" Li Hailu was stunned for a long time before he realized that Shaolin was mocking him again. When he looked at the empty plate in front of him, he immediately took action. "You villain, return my dumplings to me. I can swallow them. Are you sure you can still eat them?" "Shaolin." The two of them fought every day. Aju was already used to it. Biting the large plate of dumplings that Baijuan had reserved for her, she felt more and more that her little brother was wise. To snatch food from these two big eaters, one had to strike first to gain the upper hand. Chapter 1183. After dinner, it was time to take a walk. The temperature outside was so low that it was a little cold. Aju didn't like to wear gloves. She always said that wearing gloves was like wearing two kitten claws. Baijuan also let her be. However, every time he went out, he had to hold Aju's right hand and stuff it into his coat pocket. He was afraid that the child would be cold. Li Hailu actually didn't like to walk very much. He habitually used his elbow to touch Shaolin. Look, the way Master Bai dotes on the child. That school bell goose still wants to discuss with him what kind of sister she should have. How many people can raise a child like Master Bai? Once the new year arrives, little Aju will really be 12 years old. If Master Bai continues like this, how will little Aju, who has entered puberty, find a boyfriend? Think about it, when we were 12 years old, didn't we start to have fantasies about girls? Little Aju is the same. Master Bai sends her to class every day and picks her up after class. If little Aju has a good impression of any boy, she will be scared away by our Master Bai, the great Buddha. Hailu. Shaolin raised his eyes and glanced at him. I originally thought that after you fell in love, your brain would be enlightened. It seems that even falling in love can't save your low EQ. Can't you talk properly? Damn it, you're attacking me again. Shaolin couldn't be bothered to look at him again. However, Hailu was probably right about one thing. Baijuan wanted to feed Aju for the rest of her life. Speaking of hard work, Baijuan at this age must have had a very hard time. Shaolin still remembered the last time they sat on the sofa and watched movies and smoked. Baijuan was born to be a playboy. But that piece was clearly given to Baijuan by Li Hailu. Baijuan didn't even look at it. He just sat lazily on the chair and smoked slowly. No one knew what he was thinking. At that time, he was caught off guard. Aju pushed the door open and walked in. Before she could see what was on the screen clearly, Baijuan took a quick step and closed the door. It was rare for him to be flustered. Little brother, what are you watching? Nothing. It's a ghost movie that just came out this year. Ghost movie. I like watching ghost movies the most. It's not good. It's boring. I'll take you to the cinema this weekend. Let's go downstairs and eat something first. There's yogurt ice cream in the fridge at the seaside restaurant. All right. Ever since that time, Baizhuan had never allowed them to watch porn again. He even said that if they wanted to watch it in the future, they could go out and get a room to watch it. Don't bring it to the courtyard. Even smoking, Baizhuan did not seem to want Zhu to see him. Speaking of which, the young master of the aristocratic family who wanted to cooperate with Baizhuan had even brought them to an entertainment venue. In fact, it was not strange for them to go to those places at their age. It was just that Baizhuan did not seem to like it. His entire body was suffused with an aura that prevented strangers from entering. At that time, he knew that he could not compare to Baizhuan. He also liked Zhu very much. She really liked it. However, he had not cultivated to Baizhuan's level. He was still full of curiosity about this world. He could not guarantee that before Zhu grew up, he would not do anything to let Zhu down. After all, a person's patience was limited, especially at this age. Speaking of which, he admired Baizhuan very much. How did he manage to be so indifferent in front of the girl he liked? Shaolin's eyes curved into a smile. Perhaps it was not that he was indifferent, but it was already very difficult for him to endure. It was night. At 9:30 p.m., it was time for Zhu to sleep again. The pajamas on her body did not change with her age. It was still a kitten's outfit, but it was a few sizes bigger than before. Moreover, Zhu's legs were very long. When she wore pants, her ankles would always be exposed. However, this did not affect her beauty. In winter, wearing this kind of soft pajamas was the most comfortable to sleep in. However, recently, there was something that made Zhu feel a little troubled. She did not know why, but in the middle of the night, Baizhuan would always get up to take a shower. The shower was cold. After taking a shower, he would carry the quilt to the next room to sleep. Could it be that Baizhuan had not been sleeping well recently? Zhu raised her head and looked at Baizhuan, who had walked out of the bathroom. After Baizhuan's hair was washed with water, it would become especially black, and his face would also become much gentler. The saying that a youth's face was like jade was probably referring to this kind of person. Baizhuan wiped his hair and sat on the side of the bed. Zhu originally wanted to take the towel in his hand and wipe it for him. She did not expect that as soon as she approached, Baizhuan's entire back stiffened. I suddenly remembered that I still have an English test paper that I haven't done. Baizhuan turned his face and looked at her with a faint smile. His hand that was holding the towel was a little tight. I'm going to the study. Zhu looked at the empty seat beside her and tilted her head in confusion. Didn't he say that he had finished his homework? Moreover, when did Baizhuan become so fond of learning? He clearly did not need to write a test paper to get full marks. Zhu did not understand. She lay on the bed and thought in a daze. Was it her imagination? She felt that Baizhuan had not even hugged her much recently. If Baizhuan was still in this state tomorrow, then she would hug him to sleep. Yes, it was the same if she hugged him. Zhu, who was gradually falling asleep, did not know that in the study room that was separated by a wall, Baizhuan was not writing a test paper at all. Instead, he frowned and lit a cigarette. He just sat on the cold wooden chair, as if he was waiting for the unusual heat in his body to subside. He reached out and tugged at his collar. It was just such an ordinary action, but when he did it, there was an additional fatal sexiness. Boys at this age could not control themselves under most circumstances. The other side of innocence was that they wanted to get it. Baizhuan blew out a smoke ring. His handsome face already had a well-defined and unruly look. Shaolin was right. A person like him should have been a master who lived with thousands of women, but because of one person, he suppressed his innate nature. However, no one knew when this nature would be exposed. The night gradually cooled down. Baizhuan did not know how long he sat there, but that maddening sweetness finally faded from the tip of his nose. It seemed that he could no longer treat her as a child. Baizhuan supported his forehead with one hand. His black hair fell down, blocking his deep eyes. He knew very well that when one reached a certain age, they should sleep in separate beds. This was not good for him and Iju. Especially since Iju had already started to develop. He knew the changes in her body better than anyone else, but he could not bear to sleep in separate beds. He was truly the one who brought this upon himself. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.